Referee in charge, blowing the whistle, signaling this game is about to get underway. Treflin takes it at the 12-yard line. And Treflin is hit by Ralph Scholes and stopped right at the 26-yard line. And that's where the Montreal Alouettes will scrimmage under the direction of Walter Lewis.
Well, Walter Lewis is leading that offense this week. That's the change at quarterback, which is the key change in that offensive backfield. And the receiving core, Gerald Bradley is now in at wide receiver, and slot back will be Scott Fiskey. On the offensive line, Mike Palumbo and Blake Neal are inserted.
And Montreal fans anxiously waiting for the debut of quarterback Walter Lewis, and on the first play he hands the ball to Tony Johns, and Johns will pick up about 4, maybe 5 yards. Defensively, this Montreal team, with the addition of Price and Covington, they have given up fewer touchdowns than any other team in the league, just 15, and they also lead the league in interceptions. Lewis using his scrambling ability to get away from pressure and run for the first down, out to the 49-yard line. A breakaway from Rod Skillman to convert the play into a first down, and you'll see him continually glancing over to that Montreal bench for help in his play selection.
Well, Walter Lewis is a good scrambling quarterback, and that's what he's got to establish, that he can run with the ball so he can get some added time back there.
16 yards on the run by Walter Lewis. First and 10 Montreal. They are at their own 49-yard line. Tony Johns gets out to the 51. That's a pickup of 2. Mike Walker was there to make the stop. Talking to Gary Durchik this morning, he was lamenting the fact, when we referred to the 8 touchdowns his team has scored, that they seem to be able to move the ball well from their own zone out across midfield, but once they get inside the 40-yard line of the opposition, that's when the attack seems to stall.
That's a problem sometimes because of reading defenses as they change as you go down the field.
This is a tough defense that quarterback Lewis is trying to pass against. It's intercepted by Lance Shields. Lewis was looking for Gerald Bradley. It was intercepted by Shields, and he returns it to the 54. So the Hamilton Tiger Cats continue where they left off a week ago. Another interception against the Montreal Alouettes. We referred to the 6 interceptions by the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the last meeting between these two. Well, they pick up another interception, the theft by Lance Shields, giving Hamilton ideal field position between the 53 and the 54 for this offensive series for Mike Kerrigan.
Well, with Mike Kerrigan in there, he likes to see that type of thing because it gives him good field position as far as a turnover in that situation. The Hamilton Tiger Cat defense has been an opportunity defense all year long in providing good field position for their offense. Until they inserted Mike Kerrigan into that lineup, their offense was not able to come up with a great deal of points. Last week, when they played Montreal, Mike Kerrigan did a great job in executing the plays and moving them up the field, and they hope they could do the same job this week.
That interception by Shields, the 24th of the year for Hamilton. They lead the league in that department. Hamilton with Tony Champion playing a wide receiver position in place of the injured Ron Ingram. There's the screen pass to Walter Bender, first down to the 45-yard line. Terry Irvin came up to make the tackle on Walter Bender, who had a convoy leading him to the 45.
Well, it's a good call on first down. You want to establish some type of drive where you can get a confidence builder into the pass, and when you do that, that's what happens. As you look at the receivers, Tony Champion is back out at wide receiver, and Wayne Lee is in that slot.
That's the result of the injury to Ron Ingram. He suffered a broken finger in that last meeting between these two. Walter Bender picks up about 3 yards, stopped by the middle linebacker, William Mitchell.
I think a big key tonight will be Walter Bender in his running game, because last week the Montreal defense was not able to get a hold of him. As you take a look at Steve Rackey, that defensive line has not changed in the last few weeks, and as well as the linebackers. The only change that you'll have in the secondary is Will Lewis in there for David Daniels. So they've been consistent on defense, and they've got to have that consistency all the time.
The second. To the delight of this Iverwin Stadium crowd, Tony Champion scores the touchdown.
Well, it's just a go pattern with a receiver on the outside just runs straight up the field, and his man coverage, and Tony Champion beats him to the outside. But most important is Mike Kerrigan lays that ball high into the outside where a defender cannot get it. And that's what you have to do when you throw a pass like that with a defender covering from the inside.
A University of Tennessee product who came to the Ticats in September of last year via Dallas of the NFL. Into the lineup, replacing the injured Ron Ingram. He scores the touchdown that puts them in front. Bernie Ruoff adds the point after, and Hamilton converts a turnover into a touchdown for a 7-0 lead.
Well, I think that is very important, that you take a look at a guy drops back and Kerrigan takes a turnover situation and throws a touchdown. They haven't been getting that earlier in the season when they had Ken Hobart in there. Now they're getting the execution from Kerrigan, who is connecting on all those passes and completing passes and passes for touchdowns.
Well, Kerrigan made his debut a few weeks back against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He looked very impressive in that ball game. On the other side of the field, though, Tom Clements picked that night to play all-world football at the quarterbacking position, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers were winners by a score of 36-30. But Kerrigan still impressed the Hamilton coaching staff with his play that night. Jeff Treflin on the kickoff return. He stumbles his way out to the 38-yard line. The initial contact made by Ed Gatovekas, and he was able to hang on to bring Treflin down. So it will be 1st and 10 for Montreal. The ball at their own 38-yard line. They trail 7-0 with 10:31 left in the opening quarter.
Okay, this is an important drive for Walter Lewis, not in the sense that he has to come up with a lot of that. You want to establish yourself. He came out in the first series and threw an interception that led to a touchdown. Now we have to watch for how his calmness will be under the pressure.
He won't get a chance to throw, and he is surrounded by 4 Hamilton defenders as he got to the 34-yard line after taking the drop back to about the 30, so it's going to be a loss of 4 yards. It will be 2nd and 14. Walker and Covington were the 2 Hamilton linemen who managed to bring him down. That's a strong front 4. Covington, Walker, Price, and Skillman for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So far, giving Walter Lewis a rough introduction into the CFL. The pass intended for James Hood is incomplete. Lance Shields made a diving attempt at the interception. So the Montreal Alouettes will be forced into a punting situation again. Shields with the first interception of the ball game that resulted in a Hamilton touchdown.
Well, talking to some of the Hamilton defensive players, their whole concept was to put a whole lot of pressure on Walter Lewis. Knowing that he was new in the league and would have problems reading the defenses, they wanted to put a lot of heat on him early.
Roy Kurtz under pressure, hits it off the side of his foot. It's taken by Wayne Lee. Lee gets out to the 47-yard line, and that's where he stopped, and that's where Hamilton will begin their next offensive series when we return to Iverwin Stadium in Hamilton with the Ticats leading by 7.
Major League Baseball returns to CBC this Wednesday as the Dodgers take on the Expos from Montreal's Olympic Stadium.
Head coach Gary Durchuk has been forced to make a number of changes this season, but he now feels that he has the personnel to get the job done in Montreal, and his hopes revolve around the man who is talking to him at the moment, quarterback Walter Lewis. I mentioned they also have another quarterback on the roster, Steve Calabria, who came to the team via New England. So they have Ransom, who throughout much of this year has been their #1 man, Lewis and Calabria, and they feel that they do have the people at that quarterbacking position to carry them. 1st and 10. The Ticats at their own 47. Walter Bender upset by Steve Benjamin, and they'll spot the ball at the 54-yard line. Pickup of almost 7 for Walter Bender with 8:56 left in the opening quarter.
I think they'd like to get that ball to Walter Bender a lot more. Like I said last week, the Montreal defensive line was shut down with quick passing, and I think they're going to be coming full force tonight, and one way to do that is to use that running game effectively and throw the short, quick passes.
On second down, Walter Bender again for the first down, driving into the Montreal 49-yard line. Linebacker Ken Shanconi came in to make the tackle. Bender with 68 rushing yards last week against the Alouettes in that 28-23 triumph. Almost intercepted as they tried to go quickly inside to Walter Bender, and Lamont Jeffers was the man who knocked that pass down.
Last week, they got beat by Rocky DiPietro catching that quick pass or that hot pass over the middle. And in the second half, Lamont Jeffers and the linebackers adjusted to that, and they cut it off. And this week early, they're trying to cut it off, which will be a good thing for them because it worked very well for Hamilton last week.
Stapler wide right, Champion out to the left on 2nd and 10 from the 54 of Hamilton, or of Montreal. Kerrigan is going to run it, and he'll get the first down. He took a look at that sideline marker and dove, and they'll spot the ball about a yard beyond that forward marker.
Well, Mike Kerrigan is your classic drop-back passer, as we said before, but at times he will take off with the ball, and he saw that he had the open field, and when you have as a quarterback, take off. If you got 10 yards, but try to get out of bounds so you don't take the added hit.
Well, with his size, 6'4", 215 pounds, he is certainly capable of running with that football. But he's more adept at throwing it, although that time it went off the fingertips of Rocky DiPietro. It will be 2nd and 10.
Pass goes incomplete.
Well, Mike Kerrigan is mixing it up. In the first couple of series, he came out, he ran on first down, and then he passed on second down. This time, he's coming out with a series. He's starting a little play action on first down and throwing the ball on first down. So you got to do that to keep the team off balance so that you don't come back with one particular play.
Ben Zambiazzi resting at that Hamilton bench, hoping that the offensive unit will stay out there for a while longer. Kerrigan will attempt to do that as he throws to Rocky DiPietro, uncovered at the 25, and the veteran spot back fights his way to the 22.
Well, the smart quarterback that Kerrigan is, he comes back with the same exact play. He looks to his right, looking off the defense, and then Rocky DiPietro is running an out pattern on the backside, and he catches it out there all by himself and is able to pick up the first down.
1st and 10. The ball is at the 22 of the Owls. The Ticats leading by 7, threatening to add to their lead. Kerrigan over the middle to Rocky DiPietro. And he is wrapped up at the 15-yard line by Lamont Jeffers and driven back, but they'll rule that his forward progress had carried to the 15-yard line.
Well, Rocky DiPietro just ran a delay pattern where he waited for the things to clear out on this onside of the player to the right, and then just delayed and came across the middle and was able to pick up enough yardage for, for 7 yards and put them in a good situation for 2nd down and 3.
The pitch to Walter Bender, and Bender will be very close to a first down. They'll spot the ball, I believe, about a yard short of that forward marker. And the fans at Ivor Wynne Stadium aren't particularly excited about the spotting of that ball. A good crowd in attendance tonight. I would say the best turnout of the year here in Hamilton.
Well, one thing about the Hamilton fans, they're with you, especially when you're winning. They will support you, and if you play good football, they'll be here. But the Hamilton Tiger Cats had a good game last week. They're in 2nd place, and they know that their team is on a roll, and so they're encouraging them tonight.
What you're saying, you played here, they're with you, win or tie. Ken Hobart comes in with the short yardage offense as Hamilton is gambling on 3rd down. Penalty flag in the play. Walter Bender has the first down. There was a penalty flag, and who is the call against? The legal substitution against the Montreal Alouettes, so it will be a first down for the Ticats as they get inside the 10-yard line.
These last few weeks, Walter Bender has been a good addition to that offensive game of Hamilton Tiger Cats. Before, with Ken Hobart in there, he was the only running threat. Now,
too many men, Montreal, first down.
Now they can rely on a viable running back in Walter Bender to pick up those necessary yards as a runner.
First and goal for the Hamilton Tiger Cats from the 6-yard line. Walter Bender, touchdown. So very quickly in this first quarter, the Hamilton Tiger Cats have scored 2 touchdowns.
Well, it's just a trap play as you see Miles Burrell pull around to his right, and the hole is wide open, and Walter Bender takes it into the end zone. It was so open that Miles Burrell didn't have anybody to block.
Dale Sanderson threw the key block on linebacker William Mitchell, and that enabled Walter Bender to romp into the end zone, and with the point after by Bernie Ruoff, the Ticats in front by a 14-0 score, and will return to Ivor Wynne Stadium and the Hamilton kickoff after we pause for this message.
And the CFL returns live to CBC television this Thursday night. The Ottawa Rough Riders, with their new quarterbacks, will travel west under the dome in Vancouver as they take on Keevan Jenkins and the BC Lions, British Columbia, the best team in the CFL.
Walter Bender capping the 63-yard drive with a 5-yard touchdown run for a 14-0 Hamilton lead.
Well, you're going to take a look at Miles Gurrell will pull out here and run up here to lead the block, and then Walter Bender will just come back up here and take it in for the touchdown. As you see, Walter Bender is just reading the block of Miles Gurrell. There's nobody there for him to hit, so he just takes it on up into the end zone, and Walter Bender scores the touchdown.
The Ticats made that one look rather easy, and now Bernie Ruoff once again preparing to kick off. And once again, Jeff Treflin will try and return it, starting from the 15-yard line. He gets a bit of a seam and is stopped finally at the 41 by Ed Gadavekis.
Ed Gadavekis makes the tackle.
Jeff Treflin working on those special teams, and he is the backup defensive back with the release earlier this week of Darryl Moyer.
You look at Gadavakis there, he's just a search and destroy. Find out any way he can get down there to get to that ball carrier. And he was down there and made the tackle on the play.
And arrive in an unhappy frame of mind. Harry Sidney, the ball carrier, for a pickup of about 3, stopped by Grover Covington. Harry Sidney got his first taste of CFL action last week. He had not had any actual contact for the better part of a year. He also was with Memphis of the United States Football League. In 1983, an All-American performer at the University of Alabama was Walter Lewis. He looks on, 2nd and 7. Lewis is tripped up, and they rule he is down at the 30-yard line. Grover Covington swung his foot out as he was being blocked. Take another look at it.
Well, Walter Lewis is dropping back. You're just looking upfield, and all of a sudden, Grover Covington, it just keeps coming. His job is just to get there the fastest point as he can get there, and he sticks out his leg and makes the trip, actually, rather than an actual tackle, but it counts as a sack in the book.
So as Covington heads off, the Montreal Alouettes forced into a punting situation again, and Paul Bennett brings it down at the 42-yard line with 4:23 remaining in this first quarter. Matt Finlay was downfield to make the tackle.
Well, it's awfully important now for that Montreal defense to come up big. The offense is not playing very well, is not keeping any drives, and they're out on that field. And Hamilton has been able to establish some drives up the field, not only taking energy and working out that defensive line, but also coming up with 2 touchdowns.
Well, as we said earlier, the Hamilton Tiger Cats have yielded fewer touchdowns than any other CFL team this season. So the task for the Montreal Alouettes is going to be a difficult one. Walter Bender rips off a big gain, but there is also a penalty flag.
Holding. Hamilton, number 66.
So that effort by Walter Bender will go for naught as Miles Gurrell was detected holding by the officials. And that will bring it back to the line of scrimmage and back another 10 yards. It will be 1st and 20.
I'll get it for you.
The ball at the 33-yard line. Stapler is wide left. Kerrigan setting up the screen as Walter Bender is getting a lot of work early in this ball game. He picked up about 8 yards before being stopped by Ken Shanconi, the linebacker, and Brian Dudley, the inside halfback on the left side.
Well, it's a good call by Mike Kerrigan. First down and 20, you don't have to try to get it all in one throw. Just try to get back in an area where you can run your normal patterns down the field and come up with the first down.
Second and 14, Hamilton. The ball is at the 39. They lead by a score of 14-0. Kerrigan for Stapler. His fingertips. He was open. He found that seam over the middle, and the ball was delivered by Kerrigan. And I think Steve Stapler would be the first to admit that's one he should have hung on to.
Definitely. At 6'4", 215 pounds, Mike Kerrigan can stand there in the pocket and throw the ball. And as you see, Stapler goes down there, perfect pass in his chest, but he let the ball hit on his chest. You try to catch that ball with your hand, and when that hits against your chest, it can bounce off it the way it did against a Stapler on that situation.
Jeff Treflin, the lone man back for this third down punt by Bernie Ruoff. Treflin takes it, loses it, gets it back again at the 30-yard line. Oh, the football, it's loose, recovered by the Montreal Alouettes. Scott Robson grabs that loose football as Treflin was hit and had the ball knocked away. He was involved in quite a collision.
Well, it's just an excellent hit there, and when that happens, you know, that can happen, to fumble. And to take that type of contact, Treflin's a good little ball player, but to get hit like that, everybody will give up the ball.
Well, the recovery made by Scott Robson, a name familiar to Canadian Football League fans. His father is Paul Robson, the general manager of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Well, Treflin had a little trouble with that ball, and then he took a shot low, and that's what he made a fumble because he was holding it low and it wasn't really locked into his arms.
There was a penalty on the play as well, and referee Ross Ferrier now trying to sort things out. Apparently a holding call against Montreal.
Montreal 43 yards.
So that takes the ball back to the 17-yard line. A 43-yard kick by Hamilton's Bernie Ruoff. 2:27 remaining in this opening quarter. Draw play with Harry Sidney, and they'll lose yards back to the 14 as Mitchell Price was the first to make contact, and then Rod Skillman finished the job.
Well, that defensive front four of the Hamilton Tiger Cats is just tough, and they can actually put pressure on you without having to blitz. They've got 4 guys in there that can do the job and put the heat on you without having to use your linebackers. And when they send Ben Zambiazzi and a few of their linebackers, then you really got problems.
And I'm sure they're giving Lewis a lot of different looks defensively. Lewis fires complete, but it will be well short of a first down. It is Chapdelaine on the receiving end of the throw, but he's about 5 yards shy of the first down, so Montreal once again will send out the punting unit with 1:32 left in this opening quarter.
I think it's going to take a while for Walter Lewis to adapt to the league. I think the Hamilton Tiger Cats realize that, and they're going to give him a lot of pressure and a lot of heat coming in there in his defensive rush with the linebackers as well as that front four.
Good kick by Roy Kurtz on third down, taken by Paul Bennett at the 47-yard line. And Paul Bennett fights his way across midfield into Montreal territory at the 53. Wes Cooper and Tony Johns were there to make the tackle. Well, Mike Kerrigan has staked the Ticats to a 14-0 lead, and he's had good field position for each offensive series, and that's what a quarterback enjoys.
Definitely, and I think that defense gives that to him, and he has to take advantage of it. So far, he's been able to take advantage of it.
He gets away from the initial pressure, looking to get away from Armstrong. He threw the ball. It falls incomplete, but that may have been the result of Armstrong reaching out and pulling at his sweater.
You know, it's very seldom that you see an incomplete pass called as a good play. That was a good play by Kerrigan, because I could see him intentionally throwing that ball close to the receiver but into the ground so they wouldn't lose yards.
2nd and 10. The ball at the 53 of Montreal. 44 seconds now remaining in this opening quarter. This time Kerrigan won't get a chance to throw. Sandy Armstrong, who just missed on the last play, brings down the Hamilton quarterback this time.
Well, last week they weren't able to get that type of pressure on Kerrigan, and he hurt him a great deal. They've got to get a little bit of that pressure. And in turn, watch for Kerrigan to go to the short passes like the quick outs or the quick hots over the middle to slow down that rush. When you have a good rushing defensive line like the Montreal Alouettes, you've got to do something to slow them down, and he can do it that way.
Again, just one man back for this 3rd down punt by Bernie Ruoff. Good high kick. Treflin mishandles it, goes back to the 5-yard line to pick it up. And he's going to get some good yardage on the return despite that miscue, as he is stopped at the 20-yard line by Rocky DiPietro. But he could have been way back at the 5-yard line, but there is also a penalty marker on the play at the line of scrimmage. Again against the Montreal Alouettes, so that will take the ball back to the 5-yard line.
Well, Rocky DiPietro is known as a receiver, but that is the finest defensive play that you'll see in a one-on-one situation with a good agility back when he made that tackle there.
In the open field, he brought down Treflin, but the penalty takes the ball back to the 5-yard line. This should be the final play of the opening quarter. Lewis is getting all sorts of pressure, and he cannot throw under the charge of that Hamilton front 4. Linebacker Ben Zambiazzi also got involved. And that's the end of the opening quarter, with Hamilton leading by 14. Well, statistically, the Hamilton Tiger Cats have had it all over the Montreal Alouettes. Look at that. No net offense. 27 rushing yards, but Walter Lewis has been dropped for loss after loss. That wipes out the 27 yards they've picked up along the ground. This was one of the plays, and that front 4 of the Hamilton Tiger Cats has been giving Lewis all sorts of trouble. Some may suggest a little illegally on this sack by Grover Covington, but Palumbo pushed the big defensive end right into Lewis as he swung out his foot. And Lewis on that play lost yards. On the last play of this quarter, he lost yards. And with Ken Hobart warming up at that Hamilton bench, an indication perhaps that he will be coming into the ball game.
Well, it's important, as Al Bruno pointed out, that he gives Ken Hobart some work in situations. That doesn't necessarily mean he may put him in at the end of the game. He may insert him in for a quarter, for 5 minutes of a quarter, just so that Ken Hobart does not get rusty, because they know that they have to have 2 quarterbacks going down the line.
So it will be 2nd and 10 from the 5-yard line. Lewis in the end zone. Manages to get the pass away. It was intended for Fitzke, but it falls well short of the target. And again, Gary Durchik's quarterback was under all sorts of pressure in that end zone. Each time he's dropped back to throw, he's had people in his face.
Well, they put the pressure on him with a blitz that time, and they came with one of the defensive backs, and they were in his face. But what he showed me was the ability to get around that blitz and get out and buy some more time when he should have been sacked if he didn't have the agility he had to get outside.
Roy Kurtz will be punting from the end zone, and Leanne Bennett stand at the Montreal 45-yard line. Bennett takes it at the 47. Finds a hole, and Paul Bennett brings it back to the 14. Tony Johns finally brought Paul Bennett down after that 42-yard kick by Roy Kurtz, and Bennett returned it 32 yards.
Well, Paul Bennett, you know that he can do that anytime. He's done it for a number of years, and the time that he gets an opening and he can see, he just sits back and waits and reads what the defense is doing as far as their charge and where his offensive blockers are going, and he cuts back to the inside when they thought he was going to the outside and was able to pick up a picket of blockers to get the yardage necessary to move him down close.
Well, each time the Wilfrid Laurier product returns a punt, he establishes a league record for career yardage and career returns. And the Hamilton coaching staff feel he's the best safety in the league.
Well, Paul definitely is. He's had the experience over the number of years that he's played. I was with him when he first came to Toronto a number of years ago. And as a young rookie, you could see the intensity and the desire that he had to want to play and do well. And over the years, he has put himself in a position to read and do a good job back there.
Glenn Keeble was injured on that play. He's the Montreal center. Perhaps we can see on this replay the injury to Keeble as he tried to get involved in making the tackle.
And he gets hit low by Mark Streeter on that play, and that freed Bennett up 3 more yards, but you don't know what he's injured.
14-18 the time remaining in this second quarter, and the Ticats again are in excellent scoring position. Already thin along that offensive line, the Montreal Alouettes can ill afford another injury, but it appears as though Glenn Keeble has definitely got some problems as he limps off to that Montreal bench. Last week they lost Trevor Bowles, and they've had to do some juggling of personnel. Bowles is here with the team for this game, but is not going to play. Pass incomplete. It was intended for Rocky DiPietro.
That time on the pass, as DiPietro broke to the outside, Kerrigan just threw that ball a little bit behind him. It was a good play that they normally pick up 6 or 7 yards, and that's what you want to do on first down, to establish that second down play where that defense does not know what you're going to come with.
2nd and 10. Kerrigan looking again for DiPietro. It's incomplete.
A lot in the first half, and in the second half, Montreal Alouettes shut it down. And this week, I know he's getting special attention because he hurt them badly in that first half.
What we saw in that replay, DiPietro may have had a case. A 22-yard field goal attempt by Bernie Ruoff on 3rd and 10, and it is good. So in their first possession of the second quarter, the Hamilton Tiger Cats again come up with points, stretching their lead to 17-0. 13:26 is the time remaining here at Iverwin Stadium.
Right now, that Hamilton Tiger Cat unit is very impressive. They're doing the job defensively and shutting that offense down in Montreal. And not only that, when they come up with a big play on defense or on a specialty team, in the case with Paul Bennett, they're coming back and getting some points on the board, where earlier in the season they weren't doing that. So they're starting to get a roll until their consistency both ways, offensively and defensively.
1st and 10, the ball at the 35-yard line. Montreal with 1 first down. That was on their very first offensive series, the result of a 16-yard run by Walter Lewis. Lewis throws the ball out into the flat to James Hood, the team's leading receiver. He struggles for a gain of about 7 yards before being taken out of bounds by Lance Shields with help from Howard Fields.
finish him off, Howard. No problem.
Well, I know that may be his first completion, and that's what he wants to do. He's got to establish something where he gets some confidence here and go to a short pass, something that he's sure of, to establish his own mental confidence in throwing the ball.
Tony Johns on second down. He'll be stopped short. They were trying to pick up that first down. Scott Robson comes into the lineup in place of the injured Glenn Keeble. Well, fans of all ages, I wonder if he's ready to head back to school tomorrow, or if he's even of school age.
I don't know if he's really watching the game or what.
Another injured Montreal lineman, Kevin Molly, is down. The Owls got into a problem last week. If you were watching our telecast from Olympic Stadium, you may recall they were penalized when Steve Rocky went into the game along the offensive line playing a guard position. And he, of course, was wearing his number 99 uniform. And his jersey ruled illegal.
Yeah, well, you have to notify the referee when you do that, and maybe he didn't in that case. But they got down to a position where they had to use Steve Rocky as an offensive player rather than having a substitute because they had so many injuries.
And with first Glenn Keeble going down and now Kevin Molly, the Montreal Alouettes may find themselves in a similar position in tonight's ball game. Roy Kurtz stands back at his own 28-yard line for this third down punt with 12:31 left to play in the first half. Brett Williams has moved in at center for Montreal, snapping the ball on third down. Paul Bennett takes the punt. Bennett does some bobbing and weaving and gets out to the 38-yard line following that 38-yard kick by Roy Kurtz. So that's where Montreal will scrimmage with 12:18 left in the half. Our next telecast comes from Vancouver on Thursday night at the stadium at BC Place. The Lions will entertain the Ottawa Roughriders. On Friday night, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and Saskatchewan Roughriders go at it again after their thriller yesterday at Taylor Field. And then on Sunday, we'll be at CNE Stadium in Toronto as the Argos host the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Saskatoon. In Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia.
Terry Lenny, who backs up.
Glad to have you here.
Secondary, a University of Saskatchewan product, taking a rest over on that Hamilton bench, the offensive unit out there. Someone once said about the play of the defensive unit, if they do their job, they're out there for 2 plays. If the offense is doing its job, they're out there the whole game.
That's true, but we hope we're out there for the whole game as far as the offense is concerned.
Draw play with Walter Bender, and Bender is stopped at the 40-yard line. Brian Dudley and Lamont Jeffers making the tackle. It will be 2nd and 8. Steve Staper goes wide left. Champion comes out to the right. Kerrigan throwing for Champion. First down at the 51-yard line, taken out of bounds by Terry Urban.
So many times you see a situation where a wide receiver will run down in a long pattern and not come up with enough yards for the first time. As you take a look at the situation here, Champion runs down just enough yards to break it out, down and out, about 12 yards to pick up the first down.
Second reception of the night for Tony Champion. He scored a touchdown on his first throw. Draw play with Walter Bender, and Bender is stopped right at the line of scrimmage. And it was Brett Williams at the bottom of that pile-up who hauled down the Hamilton running back.
Brett Williams made the stop.
They'll give him a pickup of 1, make it 2nd and 9.
The Hamilton Tiger Cat offense has been doing a good job in second and long situations and holding that defensive line out of the Montreal Alouettes, who we've seen all year with Brett Williams be able to put a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks.
Pass Pass complete to Jed Tommy, and Tommy is wrapped up almost immediately by the middle linebacker, William Mitchell, stopped short of the first down. So it's a punting situation for Hamilton. Bernie Ruoff will have 2 men back this time for this third down punt. Lewis joins Jeff Treflin on his previous punts. The Montreal Alouettes drop just 1 man back. Ruoff won't get a chance to kick it. He'll run instead and get the first down. I don't think that was a design play. It was a bad snap. Ruoff had difficulty handling it, decided to take off, but he may be hurt. Ruoff appears to be in pain on the sidelines as he ran for the first down.
Well, Bernie Ruoff just back in his drop back position, and when he gets the ball, it hits the ground and rolls, and he just feels that he's going to have it blocked. And when that happens, he just fakes the punt and tries to run to the outside. He gets as many yards as possible.
I think he felt that Lamont Jeffers coming in there was going to block that third down punt. He decided to run. He got the first down. He was taken out of bounds by Gerald Bradley.
Well, as you saw on the replay, he fell pretty bad on his right ankle, and it's not a very good look, especially for a kicker, to hurt those legs.
Bradley reaching over the top to haul down Bernie Ruoff, and Ruoff gets that ankle twisted underneath.
And the way he got that twisted, looks like maybe it could be a sprained ankle of that nature, but those kickers are not very good at running, especially when it's time for them to get tackled. They don't know how to fall that well, and it's a scary situation, especially for the Hamilton Tiger Cats with a specialty guy like Bernie Ruoff, who punts for them and who's an exceptional field goal kicker to go down.
Well, they're looking now at the left knee of Bernie Ruoff. Veteran trainer Ray Jones is out there. Ruoff was shaken up last week in that game against the Montreal Alouettes. He had a bad snap on a third down punting situation late in the game back at his own 5-yard line that he was unable to handle, and took quite a pounding as he tried to cover up the loose football. He gets an appreciative round of applause from the fans at Ivor Wynne Stadium as he is assisted across the field to that Hamilton bench. Bernie Ruoff was the first player in CFL history to go over 60,000 yards in career punting. This year he was joined by Lou Pasaglia of the BC Lions.
Well, Bernie's a good punter and field goal kicker, and you want to make sure he's all right. Those kickers are not used to all that contact, as I said, and I'm sure that Bernie's going to be all right coming back in there.
With Ruoff going off, Steve Stapler will likely look after the punting chores. The Ticats are hoping they won't have to face that situation for a while, because Ruoff was able to run for that first down, and the offensive unit stays out there at the 48-yard line.
The thing about that, Don, is that's on his left knee where he plants to kick that field goal, so that could be a problem.
10-12 remaining in the half. Hamilton retaining possession. Is it caught? Wayne Lee comes up with it. Very close to a first down. Lee running out of that slot back position, hanging on to the ball despite the coverage for another Hamilton first down at the 37.
Well, there's a good grab by Wayne Lee, because the coverage by the newcomer Will Lewis was very good on his back, and Kerrigan just drilled it in the stomach where he has to put it to come up with that type of reception.
First and 10. DiPietro makes the catch out of bounds at the 12.
Okay, as you see the offensive line here, you got the linebackers here, which you can't see right now, that are blitzing here, and they're picked up by this offensive line here. And that gives him time to sit back and pick up man-on-man coverage to Rocky DiPietro and hit him on the out coverage.
Back to the live action as Bender fights his way down to the 5-yard line. Stopped by the linebacker William Mitchell. The Ticats now send in the short yardage offense. Kerrigan goes out and Ken Hobart comes in as quarterback. The ball just outside the 5-yard line.
That's an interesting move. You get down there on the 5-yard line and they take you out of the quarterback. I don't know if Kerrigan's happy about it, but the fact is that Ken Hobart's a very good mover down there.
Well, Hobart's strength is his running ability, although he gives the ball to Bender, and Bender is going to be stopped short of the first down. Now, on 3rd and 2, what will they do? Ruoff is injured.
Well, I don't think they're going to worry about getting it to Ruoff right now. I think they're going to go for it, knowing that Bernie is down and maybe hurting over there on the sideline. And this is a good opportunity for them to take a measurement, take a look at it, and see how far they have to go and what play they want to use.
The fans, of course, want the Ticats to go for it. And on 3rd and a little better than a yard, that offensive unit is going to remain in there. The Ticats have to get inside the 2-yard line to pick up a first down. Of course, they would like on this play to get into the end zone. Third down, Hobart rolls out. Will he get there? Yes, he is down to the 1.
That's his second effort by Ken Hobart because he was hit well short of the first down. But Ken Hobart is a very big quarterback and has a lot of strength, and he just bullied his way enough for the first down on that play. As you take a look at it here, he rolls out to his left, and he's hit back in the backfield, but then he just powers his way forward and picks up the first down. And that's why they've got him in there in that short yardage situation close to the goal line.
So it's 1st and goal from the 1 now for the Ticats. Hobart gives to Bender. Touchdown. There's also a penalty flag on the play.
Offside. Montreal number 91 declined. Touchdown.
So the offside call won't have any effect as it was against Montreal. Bender gets in for the touchdown. And with 7:56 in the half, it's now 23-0.
You take it, all they're going to do is just get as many yards as you can with the offensive line, drive as far as you can back that defense, and then Bender just jumps as far as he can in hopes he gets into the end zone.
Well, now with Bender going off to the bench, the Ticats may have a problem. What are they going to do? A 2-point conversion because of the injury to Ruoff? Or does Al Bruno have somebody else he's going to send out there to try and kick a convert?
Well, Coach Bruno just got caught for a time count violation, so they're trying to think about what they can do here. This is a very difficult situation for the coach now to make a call and see if Bernie's all right, but evidently he's not going to be able to kick the extra point.
Well, fortunately for the Ticats, they are comfortably in front by a 23-0 score. Dan Hucklack is going to attempt the convert. It will come from 17 yards out with that time count penalty. Not a bad job as Hucklack puts it through. So everything's going the Ticats' way tonight with 7:56 remaining in this first half. We'll be back with the Hamilton kickoff after this. Today's Carling O'Keefe Game Stars will receive a Royal Canadian Mint 1-ounce gold coin presented by Nikon, the one-touch camera for once-in-a-lifetime shots. The simplest 35mm Nikon ever. Drop in the film, aim, and shoot. The Nikon One Touch. They've got the ice pack on the injured left knee of Bernie Ruoff. I suppose if he is going to suffer a knee injury, it's better that it's the left than the right, his kicking leg.
Yes, it is on one hand, but on the other hand, like I said, that's the knee he plants on to get the power to get that right leg back around.
Dan Hucklack kicking off a short kickoff that is taken at the 35-yard line by Brett Williams, and Williams fights his way out to the 51.
Upright kickoff is taken by Williams.
So Brett Williams handled that short kickoff. And Williams gets it back out to the 51.
Well, when you get in these short yardage situations, you want to try to get your offensive line to get the initial charge and contact. The winner of that contact in that 1 yard line, whether the offense pushes the defense back or the defense pushes the offense back, depends on who gets the touchdown.
Kevin Molly operating at the offensive center position in place of the injured Glenn Keeble. Scott Watson is in there at a guard spot. Intercepted. And it's Howard Fields to the 35-yard line, tackled by the quarterback, the man who threw the ball, Walter Lewis. The second interception of the game for the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Well, when you have the defensive line playing as well as they're playing, that secondary knows that that young quarterback does not have enough time to move around there. This time he bought a little more time by scrambling around, but Fields was laying back in the bushes, just reading him, waiting for him to uncork, and picked it off for the interception.
First and 10 following the Fields interception from the 35-yard line. The Ticats lead the league as a team with 25 interceptions. Kerrigan is intercepted by Ryan, the safety, and Ryan gets it right back for Montreal, taking it out to the 40-yard line. There's a penalty flag as the Ticats are going to be called for rough play as Walter Bender drove Ryan into the wall.
Major foul. Hamilton, number 34.
Well, you know, when I played in this stadium, when I first came to the league, that wall scared me to death. And what happens is Ryan gets pushed and can't stop his momentum from going out of bounds. As Bender is running to him, he pushes him out of bounds. And right now, you can't go anywhere but straight because your momentum takes you there, and his trip hits his head against the wall. Kerrigan is dropping back. He's looking over the middle to hit Rocky DiPietro over the middle on the delay, and it hits off of his hands, and Ryan picks it off for the interception. And as he's running, Bender's chasing him down and just tries to push him out of bounds, but he loses his momentum, and then that's what carries him into the wall.
With that extra push by Bender on the sidelines, Ryan appeared to stumble as he went flying into that wall that is just a short distance from the sidelines here at Ivor Wynne Stadium. Lewis almost intercepted by Les Brown as he was looking for Bradley.
When you get a situation when you get a lot of pressure like is happening here with Walter Lewis, the defensive backs have a tendency to take a little more chances and gamble because they figure that you don't have enough time as a quarterback. So you got to do something to buy time, screen, or whatever, to buy yourself a little more time out there.
Well, Lewis will have a little extra time to decide on his second down call because there will be a delay as Ryan goes across the field, limping over to that Montreal bench. He was acquired by Montreal from British Columbia in a trade for Ian Sinclair. He has played well at that safety position. But it's been a rough night for the Montreal Alouettes. Glenn Keeble going down. Ryan now going down. And the Ticats, of course, losing Bernie Ruoff to that injury earlier in this quarter. It will be 2nd and 10. The ball at the 54-yard line. Kevin Molly playing center, replacing the injured Glenn Keeble for Montreal. Walter Lewis starting the game at quarterback, having a rough introduction to the CFL. His pass is incomplete. He was looking over the middle for Jacques Chapdelaine at the 40-yard line of Hamilton. And the Alouettes again send out the punting unit, trailing by a score of 24-0 with 6:12 left in this first half.
Well, I think it's going to be very difficult for Walter Lewis in his first game especially to pick up everything. You play in practice, everything looks easy because you don't have the heat and the pressure of that defensive line and people moving on you, and you get a little better read of things. But when you get into a game in the CFL with a lot of people out there, it's a different story.
Good kick by Roy Kurtz on 3rd down. Paul Bennett takes it at the 15. fights his way out to the 24-yard line, and Tony Johns was there to make the tackle. A 41-yard kick that time by Roy Kurtz, a run back of 9 by Paul Bennett.
Traveled 41 yards.
Mike Kerrigan started the game at quarterback for Hamilton. He is continuing, although on the 1 touchdown drive, Ken Hobart came in, as he will often do in short yardage situations for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Rick Ryan is back for Montreal, playing that safety spot, so the injury is not as serious as was first feared. Walter Bender gets the call. Linebacker William Mitchell came in to fill the hole after a gain of about 1. .526 is the time left to play in this first half. Last year, the Ticats, with a slow start, they rebounded in the second half of the season and went on to a Grey Cup spot. This year, they appear to be doing things much the same. Complete to Rocky DiPietro. Out to the 54-yard line. He was hit there by Ryan, but it's a big first down.
Sorry.
A lot of that play was by Kerrigan as far as dropping back and making his read. He reads his zone because all the secondary linebackers are dropping off. He fakes it out in the flat, and that leaves Rocky DiPietro breaking over the middle with the linebackers coming up and the defensive backs dropping off to be able to catch the ball.
Well, I think each time that Rocky DiPietro makes a catch and adds to his yardage, he moves up a notch or two in the all-time CFL career yardage standings. Walter Bender is brought down by William Mitchell after a pickup of about 3. The game totally dominated by the Ticats. Their offense has been moving, and their defense has not given Walter Lewis much at all. They've put tremendous pressure on him, almost from the first offensive series that the Montreal Alouettes attempted to run. Kerrigan's pass knocked down right at the line of scrimmage.
Kerrigan's pass incomplete.
So the Hamilton Tiger Cats are forced into the punting situation, and we look for Steve Stapler to come in and handle the punting chores in the absence of the injured Bernie Ruoff. Well, we saw Dan Hucklack earlier on the conversion and the kickoff, and now it's Steve Stapler back for this third down punt. I'm a little surprised that Montreal doesn't have 11 men lined up there trying to go after it. A left-footed kicker is Stapler. The ball bounces down at the 25-yard line. Treflin takes it on the run and gets it back to the 30. A 30-yard kick by Steve Stapler. And a 5-yard run back by Jeff Treflin for a 1st and 10 Montreal situation at the 30-yard line.
I think, Don, you're going to see a different strategy by the coaches from now on with the Hamilton offense. Anytime they get in an area where it may be a long field goal situation, they may take a chance and go for it on 3rd down rather than try to kick a field goal when they normally have somebody who can get it there. And you might see a situation in punting situations depending on where they're lined up on the field.
Well, Walter Lewis started the game. Brian Ransom now comes in for Montreal. Ransom pass is complete to James Hood. He'll be close to the 1st down. Taken out of bounds at the 40-yard line by Lance Shields.
Well, I think it's a good move now to get Brian Ransom a feel of this half before probably he plays more of the second half to get a feel what they can talk about when they go in and halftime of how they want to attack this Hamilton Tiger Cat defense.
Well, in defense of Walter Lewis, I think there were many who expected too much too soon from the young man. He has not played for a year and is certainly not totally familiar with that Montreal offense or the CFL. Ransom fumbles the ball right into the arms, I believe, of Ben Zambiazzi. So another turnover puts Hamilton in scoring position once again. Time tonight, the national news highlights of the game earlier today between Edmonton and Calgary, a report on the Saskatchewan victory yesterday over Winnipeg, the CompuStats, and the analysis of the first half. The fumble into the arms of Ben Zambiasi, giving Hamilton a first down at the 39-yard line of the Montreal Alouettes. 2:49 remaining in the half. 24-0 the score. The pitch to Walter Bender. Bender nowhere to go. He is going to lose about 4 yards, wrapped up by Doug Scott.
Well, that's the good thing that defense is doing. They've been able to shut down the running game, which last week Hamilton had a little more success with than they're having this first half. And they're doing a good job on that rushing game, but they've got to get to Kerrigan in his drop back passing.
Well, last year we saw the record earlier of the Hamilton Tiger Cats through the first half of the season. You just saw the record of the Montreal Alouettes. Well, Hamilton's isn't greatly different from a year ago. Montreal certainly is. DiPietro tried to one-hand that throw from Kerrigan. He was being covered by Dudley. It will be 3rd and 14.
As we talked about a little bit last week in James Hood and Dunnigan, as far as, I mean, not Dunnigan, but Brian Ransom, as far as receivers together, you'll see the combination of Kerrigan and Rocky DiPietro here being a favorite target of Kerrigan. And he's being held quite a bit down there by Lewis in that situation. And you got to watch that, because a lot of times when you're taking your eyes off the ball, those defensive backs have a tendency to grab those receivers.
Better kick by Steve Stapler, and it bounces out of bounds at the 13-yard line. So it will be 1st and 10 from the 13 for the Montreal Alouettes, and Brian Ransom will continue as the Montreal quarterback, replacing the starter Walter Lewis late in this first half. Ransom started the year as the #2 man in Montreal behind Joe Barnes. 3 games into the season, he became the #1 quarterback, and he had occupied that position until the arrival of Walter Lewis. Lewis making his first start in tonight's ball game. He was dressed for last week's game in Montreal. Tony Johns dumped right at the line of scrimmage by Mike Walker. Well, early it appeared as though the Alouettes were going to try and establish something of a ground game, but they have not been able to establish really anything through the first half.
You know, what goes first? You establish a passing game and go to running, or you establish a running game to go to a pass? But you have to get first downs before you can get anything going.
On second down, it's almost intercepted by Ben Zambiasi. Zambiasi in position again.
Well, Ben Zambiasi just sits there and reads as Brian Ransom is audible to the line of scrimmage and changed plays because he read a blitz, but Ben Zambiasi is covering the back out of the backfield but happens to be in the right place as Brian Ransom threw the ball, but just didn't come up with the interception.
So on third down, Kurtz punting from his own goal line, kicks it to midfield to Paul Bennett. And Bennett goes out of bounds at the 43, forced out there by Wes Cooper with 1:35 remaining in this first half. 24-0, Hamilton leading Montreal. Mark Hopkins is the injured player. Hopkins had returned to the Montreal lineup last week for the game against Hamilton. And early in the game, he took quite a hit working on the special team. He had to head off to hospital. He suffered a slight concussion in that game. But now this injury appears to be to the knee. At least that's the area they're working on.
Last week, his hit that he took was from a great big guy, Steve Stapler, and gave him a concussion. It was a good specialty teams play, but Stapler was just a little higher than him and gave him a concussion.
Paul Bennett returned that punt 12 yards. We talked earlier about some of the problems that the Montreal Alouettes are having as far as depth is concerned along that offensive line. Well, they are going to have some problems in other areas as well, with Hopkins now down because he backs up the linebackers and the defensive line.
42, the Calgary Stampeders 19.
Brian Ransom and Walter Lewis standing there with Coach Gary Durchik.
Yeah, when those coaches are standing there with the quarterbacks, you're struggling to find a play. You want to find something to work to start a drive, and you get your receivers together and all the various people, and you try to figure out what they're doing out there that you can come up with an offensive play against.
"20 degrees the temperature at the start of the game tonight in Hamilton. It's a beautiful warm evening this first day of September, and the largest crowd of the year is also watching the action here at Iverwin Stadium in Hamilton. Just 21 yards so far for Montreal, 191 for Hamilton. The Alouettes this year, the weakest offense in the CFL, just 8 touchdowns and 132 points coming into the ball game.
As you alluded to earlier, Don, they moved the ball between 20 and 20 and up and down the field, but they have been able to cap those drives off with touchdowns. And what happens there is a quarterback, as you go down the defense, down the field, you get various defenses, and you get particularly zoned in those areas. And when you get down there around the 20, you're going to get a lot of man coverage and a lot of blitzing, and you've got to be able to pick that up and pick the one-on-one receivers and beat those defensive backs.
Well, tonight Montreal hasn't been even able to move the ball between the 20-yard lines. They have had no success at all in moving the football. Kerrigan runs into Doug Scott at the 45-yard line. He'll actually lose yards on the play.
One of the few times that you see Kerrigan will roll out, but he has that capability to get out to buy some time. At 6'4", he can stand back there in that pocket and do all the reading he wants to do as long as he gets enough time.
Leading 24-0. I don't think that Al Bruno is too excited at watching his quarterback run the ball too often in the dying seconds of this first half. Give the ball to the people who are paid to run with it, and that, of course, is Walter Bender. First down, Hamilton inside the 30-yard line. Will Lewis and William Mitchell combined on the tackle, and Bender is hurt.
Holding. Montreal number 72.
Well, Kerrigan just drops back and he just throws a screen pass to the right side to Walter Bender. First he takes off and he starts going what we call east to west across the field, but the best way to run is where he's going now, north to south, and get as many yards as you can close to that first down.
Bender, the injured ball player.
There was a penalty on the play, a holding call against Montreal. It has been declined by the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Jeffers was guilty of holding.
Well, I think that Hamilton Tiger Cat team now is feeling more and more better about themselves. I think as time gone on, they've built up more confidence in both offense and defense.
And I'm sure there will even be more speculation now as to the future of Gary Durchik with the arrival in Montreal of Marv Levy as director of football operations. There were many who had anticipated that Durchik might not survive the season.
I think Walter Bender just had the wind knocked out of him there. 5'11", 195. He's a product of Kent State University.
So Walter Bender comes off. And Dan Hucklack and Jed Tommy move into the running back positions now for Hamilton. As we move into the final minute of this first half, it's a 1st and 10 from the 29-yard line. Incomplete, intended for Rocky DiPietro. It will be 2nd and 10 with 43 seconds left on the clock.
The one receiver that I'm sure that Kerrigan has a lot of confidence in is Rocky DiPietro, and he has good hands and good abilities to not only beat you with the short passes, but Rocky can go deep and beat you long.
Steve Stapler goes wide left. Champion wide right on 2nd and 10. Kerrigan steps up into the pocket, underthrows DiPietro.
Kerrigan's pass is incomplete.
It's 3rd and 10. Well, will we get to see Dan Hucklack attempt a field goal with 38 seconds remaining?
This might be the opportunity you might see a fake. As you see Rocky DiPietro, they're jamming him a little bit. In other words, they're hitting him at the line of scrimmage. Dudley is playing him close, but he's also holding as he grabs hold of a little jersey, but it's not called for it. You may see a situation where Tom Porras will come in to hold, and they may go for a fake at any time. They might do anything now because they really don't have a person that they're confident in to really kick that field goal, because they probably didn't really work on it.
Well, Hucklack better get that shoe tied quickly, or he's going to be kicking it from 5 yards further back. They won't get this one underway. Well, they do. Just in time. And it's well short. It bounces, however, into the end zone. Penalty flag on the play. As Ryan was sent sprawling in the end zone as he went down to concede the single point.
Major foul, unnecessary roughing, 66 Hamilton. 1 point scores.
A single point on the play as Ryan drops to one knee. He's conceding the point, and yet Miles Gurrell
now
drives him to the turf.
At 6'8", 285, I think they might be justified calling roughing on that situation. Miles Gurrell, 6'8", 285 pounds, is a lot of weight to be coming down on Rick Ryan.
Well, earlier, Ryan was hit late out of bounds. That resulted in a rough play call against Hamilton. And now he's drilled in the end zone while attempting to concede a single point as they take a look at that left knee that he hurt earlier. 25-0 the score with 29 seconds remaining in the half. It will be 1st and 10 for the Montreal Alouettes at the 50-yard line.
Well, this game is an important game to both teams from the standpoint of where they're finishing the playoffs and that type of thing. Toronto Argonauts, as far as the Hamilton Tiger Cats are concerned, they don't want them to get too far away from that first place opportunity, as well as the Montreal wants to be in a situation where they can at least compete for 2nd and possibly 3rd place in the playoffs. And if they don't win enough games, you have the Western teams who are playing very well and chalking up a lot of points.
Well, of course, the new playoff format this year, in the event that the 4th place team in the West has more points than the 3rd place team in the East, 4 teams in the West will qualify for postseason play and just 2 teams in the East. So the Montreal Alouettes are concerned about the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Toronto Argonauts getting too far ahead of them, and of course the fact that they won't have as many points as the 4th place team in the West. This is how the injury occurred to Rick Ryan, and you see that knee bent under as he's hit by Miles Gurrell.
Well, when you go down in that safety spot to concede the single point, you put that knee down, and when he did that, it was wrapped up under him, and Miles Gurrell at 285, 290 pounds, that weight shifted on that knee and created the injury.
Again, Rick Ryan makes that long walk to the Montreal bench.
He's having a tough night, running to the wall and then get hit by Miles Gurrell.
Walter Bender of the Ticats was winded earlier in this quarter. However, I think we'll see Bender return to the lineup. We'll probably see Ryan back in the game as well. But 2 of the injured players, Glenn Keeble and Bernie Ruoff, probably will not be returning tonight. The Montreal Alouettes have been unable to do anything offensively. They have only had 2 first downs. They'll get a 3rd with the pass completion to James Hood.
Well, James Hood is the receiver they want to get the ball to. They haven't been able to do that earlier with Walter Lewis in the game. Probably not familiar with him, but Brian Ransom, he's Brian Ransom's favorite target, and he likes to go to him a lot, and this time he just goes to him in a quick out, and if he can do that and pick up a couple of first downs, they can come up with a touchdown maybe before the half.
At the 49-yard line, it's 1st and 10, Montreal. Deep down the sidelines, incomplete. It was intended for Bradley, and Bradley was bumped out of bounds over on the far side of the field with the coverage by Lance Shields. Bradley, prior to joining Montreal, had been in the United States Football League with both Oakland and Memphis, and he also had a tryout a couple of years ago with the British Columbia Lions of the CFL. 19 seconds remaining. 2nd and 10. The ball is at the 49 of Hamilton. I think this is the first time tonight that the Montreal Alouettes have been on Hamilton's side of the midfield stripe. Ransom on 2nd down is forced out of bounds short of a first down with 14 seconds remaining.
If those people at home are watching this game, sometimes when you watch Brian Ransom, you can tell when he's running an audible, because what he will do is shout out to the left and to the right a little louder than he normally would if he had a straight cadence call. And that's just to make sure that everybody on the outside to the inside hears the change of play at the line of scrimmage.
Well, Gary Durchuk wants to go to the dressing room with something on the board before this first half ends, so he, on 3rd down, sends out the field goal unit. Roy Kurtz will try a 49-yard field goal. The kick is wide, but bounces away from Paul Bennett into the end zone. Will he get it out of there? Yes. He gets out to the 1-yard line with 3 seconds remaining in this first half.
Well, that was important for Paul Bennett because, first of all, the ball got by him, and he didn't want that to happen, because I know what that defense is thinking now. They're thinking shutout. If they get the opportunity to shut out a team, that's what they like to have.
Well, there has been one lopsided shutout this year in the Canadian Football League. 56-0, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers over the Saskatchewan Roughriders, but the Roughriders gained some revenge yesterday with that very exciting 34-30 win at Taylor Field in Regina before the largest crowd of the season at Taylor Field, over 25,000 people. A loss that was doubly costly for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in that they have lost Tom Clemens with a separated shoulder for at least 2 months. Most likely for the entire season. Kerrigan goes down with 1 second remaining on the clock, so there is time for one more play.
Well, he wants to make sure, rather than take the ball back from snap and drop down, he wants to go forward with it because they're on the 1-yard line, and if he drops back now and just drop his knee, then that's a safety.
Al Bruno's team comfortably in front for this final play of the opening half. The Hamilton Tiger Cats will head to the dressing room with a 25-0 lead over the Montreal Alouettes. Ticats struck early on their first possession, scoring a touchdown, and they have not looked back. Right now, let's go to Brian Williams at CFL Control.
All right, thank you, Don Whitman. Busy halftime show coming up. We'll have highlights of the game earlier today at McMahon Stadium in Calgary. The Eskimos with a rather easy victory there. Steve Armitage will bring us a report on an outstanding football game yesterday. The Saskatchewan Roughriders upsetting the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We'll have CompuStats, first half analysis, plus national and regional news. I will update Major League Baseball. Blue Jays won today. Red Sox are playing tonight. And we'll take a look at results from the U.S. Open. Stay with us. The CFL on CBC continues right after this. It is halftime, and the Hamilton Ticats lead the Montreal Alouettes 25-0. I'm Brian Williams. Welcome back to CFL Control in Toronto. Earlier today, a big crowd at McMahon Stadium in Calgary went home disappointed as the Edmonton Eskimos had no trouble with the Calgary Stampede. Let's pick it up in the first quarter. The Eskimos scoring all the points they would need. Matt Dunnigan, 43-yard touchdown to the veteran Brian Kelly. It was 7-0. Again in that first quarter, again the combination of Dunnigan to Kelly, a 14-yarder to make it 14-0. And one more touchdown still in that first quarter. Matt Dunnigan, 16-yarder to Rick House, 21-0. Dunnigan passing for 328 yards. He had 4 touchdowns, 3 passing, and he rushed for the 4th. In the fourth quarter, number 9, Jeff Tedford out of Fresno State, replacing Rick Johnson. A long touchdown to Harris, a 32-yarder, 42-17. The game was all over, but to make it interesting, Tedford to his wide receiver Ray Alexander for the 2-point conversion, but it was far too little and far too late. And a disappointing day for that big crowd in Calgary as the Eskimos have a rather easy win over the Stampeders. And as we look at the scoreboard, a different story from the opening game of the season, June 24th in Calgary, when the Eskimos won 21-20. The Western standings, Edmonton in sole possession of second place now. Now, don't forget, we'll have BC home to Ottawa Thursday. You see, Winnipeg is third. They failed to move up yesterday. They were defeated by Saskatchewan, an outstanding football game. And here's Steve Armitage.
Brian, we've had some nail-biting finishes in the CFL this season, but I think you'd have to go a long way to beat the finish that we had here at Taylor Field in Regina on Sunday afternoon. The Rough Riders in a traditional rivalry type of game against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It went right down to the wire before Jack Goda and the Saskatchewan Rough Riders pulled it out. They were actually leading by a score of 27-23 with 1:30 remaining to play in the game. Then John Huffnagel, who came on in relief of Tom Clemens, found James Sykes, and Sykes did the rest to put the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in front by a score of 30-27. It looked as if Winnipeg had it wrapped up at that point, but Joe Pow Pow and the Rough Riders weren't finished. Pow Pow, with some time, went long to Ray Elgard. Elgard, showing good speed, took the pass in, went in for the touchdown, his second of the game. He finished the game with 8 receptions for 157 yards. Saskatchewan defeat Winnipeg by a score of 34-30. It was a very entertaining game indeed for Saskatchewan. Their record now goes to 4-5. For Winnipeg, their record now 5-4. A great game at Taylor Field in Regina. Now back to you, Brian.
Steve Armitage, it was a great game indeed. We thank you for that report from Taylor Field. Bad news, though, for Winnipeg yesterday. Quarterback Tom Clemens separated his shoulder. He is lost for at least 2 months and probably the entire season. Bringing you up to date on other happenings in Major League Baseball today, the Toronto Blue Jays won in the bottom of the 9th inning. Lloyd Mosby, the shaker, drove in the winning run with the bases loaded. Mosby singled, and as you see, the Blue Jays defeat the Cleveland Indians by a score of 5-4. Now, that victory today by the Jays moves them to within 3 games of the first-place Boston Red Sox. Bo Sox at home tonight at Fenway against the Texas Rangers. And in the top of the 3rd inning at Fenway Park, the Rangers leading the Boston Red Sox by a score of 1-0. Elsewhere tonight, the Montreal Expos and the Los Angeles Dodgers are scoreless in the 2nd inning, bottom of the 2nd inning, that game being played at Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Well, there was a major upset yesterday at the U.S. Open tennis tournament in New York City in the men's division. Jimmy Connors was defeated. No real upset so far today. Winners include the top men's seed, Yvonne Lendl, as well as Chris Evert-Lloyd, Martina Navratilova, and Steffi Graf. That about updates other happenings today. We'll have more baseball, more tennis later in the show. In fact, when we come back to CFL Control after this football game. Right now, though, we are getting set to return to the Steel City, to Ivor Wynne Stadium in Hamilton. Hamilton leads Montreal 25-0. Let's return live to Ivor Wynne Stadium once again. Here's Don Whitman. Don?
Well, as you might expect in a 25-0 football game, the Hamilton Tiger Cats also totally dominating statistically. As a matter of fact, statistically, it's no contest. 12 first downs to just 3. 207 yards for Hamilton, just 39 for Montreal. Now, last week, Montreal had 6 passes intercepted by the Ticats, 4 of them by Les Brown. In this ball game, 2 interceptions so far, one of them early by Lance Shields, as Walter Lewis had this throw picked off, and the interception by Lance Shields was very quickly converted into a touchdown by the Hamilton Tiger Cats, as Mike Garrigan, on the first possession following that interception by Shields, directed the Ticats down the field into the Montreal end zone. Chuck Ely, a game that has been totally dominated so far by the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Definitely, Don. The Hamilton Tiger Cats have done everything, both offensively and defensively. And if you take a look at the first touchdown they got was to Tony Champion. And Mike Kerrigan does an excellent job by just dropping back and making the read and just throwing what we call just a up pattern to Tony Champion, high into the outside where you have to throw it when you know you get that man-to-man coverage on the wide receiver. And then as they get another turnover and they come back in a running play, Walter Bender, led by Miles Gurrell around the right side, is able to run it in for 5 yards for another touchdown. So their offense has been doing well all evening, but also more important, their defense has been doing a good job in getting them the ball. As you see, number 77, Grover Covington, inserted back in the lineup tonight, make a sack.
Well, you expect that Hamilton defense to play well, and they are certainly doing that tonight. The offense has also managed to put 25 points on the board through 30 minutes of play. We'll return with our halftime show at Ivor Wynne Stadium, but first, let's pause for this message. A relaxed Bob Obilovich, the head coach of the Toronto Argonauts, taking in tonight's game. His team perched atop the Eastern standings. You lead the Hamilton Tiger Cats, a team you beat the first time out this year, 21-20, but this is a different Hamilton team tonight, isn't it?
Well, I have been really impressed with their offense, especially in that first two drives. Kernigan threw the ball especially well, and their defense has been tough for the last couple of years, so they look like they're starting to get it together in every respect.
You lead the Ticats, assuming that Hamilton wins tonight's football game. You play them on Sunday afternoon. What is the status of Conrad Holloway?
Well, I think Conrad is all right. He got dinged when he made that block, but other than that, with a couple extra days off, and I expect him to be back at full strength. And with a little bit more time to prepare, we'll get a better look at Dave Collins as well, or excuse me, Tim Collins as well, to get him ready too.
Now, this Hamilton Tiger Cat team with Kerrigan at quarterback, you did not face Kerrigan the last time you played. What do you think of him?
Well, it looks like he throws the ball well done. He seems to have a lot of plays back there, and he's capable of running when he has to. I don't think there's anyone compared to Hobart when he gets going running the ball, but he's a good enough athlete to give you problems, and we're going to have to play a solid defensive game against him.
I'm sure as a head coach, your feelings tonight go out to the man standing over at that Montreal bench, Gary Durchik.
Oh, really? When you have a game like this, they've had very little offense, and they don't seem to be making a lot of plays and hitting and everything, and I can sympathize with the coach because the players just have to get a little more excited in the second half to get in this ball game.
Howard Fields returning the kickoff, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats will scrimmage 1st and 10. One final question, OB. What about that Hamilton defense? Can you handle it?
Well, it remains to be seen. We've been playing against good defensive fronts and good defensive teams for the last several weeks, and we don't feel our offense has really come into its own yet, so we just hope that we can play better offensively and give them more problems.
Well, right now, Rocky DiPietro is continuing to give Montreal some problems. Thank you, Bob Obilovich. We'll see the Toronto Argonauts against these Hamilton Tiger Cats Sunday afternoon at CNE Stadium in Toronto. And as we look at the replay, it's Kerrigan throwing to Rocky DiPietro on the first offensive series of this second half. And DiPietro carries down to the 34-yard line, a gain of 23 for number 23. It's 1st and 10 Hamilton. Kerrigan to DiPietro again, and DiPietro is inside the 20-yard line. There's also a penalty flag on the play. DiPietro was brought down by Rick Ryan.
Forward pass interference. Montreal number 32 declined. First down.
DiPietro had enough for another Hamilton first down, so naturally the Ticats decline the penalty. The interference call against that man, Terry Irvin. The ball is now at the 19-yard line. It's 1st and 10. Kerrigan decides to run the ball. He's bounced out of bounds by Brett Williams. He'll have a gain of about 8 yards. Initially, Kerrigan was looking into the end zone as we watch the charge of Brett Williams.
Well, Brett Williams is a tough player, and many times he gets double teamed in there. And this time, Miles Guerrero is on him, and he's holding him out there pretty good.
However, Williams still got across to make the play on the Hamilton quarterback, bouncing him out of bounds after a pickup of 8. It's 2nd and 2. The ball is at the 11. Kerrigan will keep. He'll get the first down as he dives inside the 10-yard line. Al Bruno would like to see his team add another touchdown here early in this third quarter, and then I wouldn't be at all surprised if he made a quarterbacking change going to Ken Hobart.
As we stated before, it's important for him to keep Ken Hobart as sharp as possible. You don't want to do anything to detract from that offense being successful, but you've got to give Ken Hobart some playing time.
First and goal, Hamilton from the 9-yard line. 12:51 remaining in this opening, or this third quarter. The pass complete to Rocky DiPietro. He fights his way to the 1.
Pass complete to DiPietro.
The Montreal Alouettes really having their problems trying to stop this Hamilton attack tonight.
Well, Rocky DiPietro just never gives up in running in there, and he's the kind of receiver that will catch it in traffic, as he does here, in picking up a first down and putting the ball on the 1-yard line. And Kerrigan seems to want to go to him a great deal of the time.
The 7th reception tonight for DiPietro for 108 yards. 2nd and goal from the 1, and Walter Bender is in there for the touchdown.
In short yardage situations, all you want to do is to drive out with that offensive line and push back that defense as far as you possibly can and let that running back into a hole or jump over the top. And Walter Bender found the hole and got into the end zone.
Well, Walter Bender is on a touchdown per quarter pace. He had one in the first quarter, another in the second, and he opens the third quarter, capping a Hamilton drive by diving into the end zone as the Ticats march 57 yards in just 6 plays. 31-0 is the score, and Dan Hucklack will try the extra point. And Hucklack has to switch shoes for this conversion attempt. In case you have just joined us, Bernie Ruoff, who normally handles the Hamilton punting and place-kicking chores, was injured in the second quarter. Hucklack is looking after the placement chores, and Steve Stapler has been punting.
I think that was one of those sort of injury plays to buy some time for Hucklack to tie up that shoe and to get on the field.
Marv Alamang, the veteran lineman, slowly making his way off to that Hamilton bench now, and I think you've assessed the situation quite correctly, because now they do have that placement down, and the kick is through by Hucklack for a 32-0 lead with 12:09 remaining in the third quarter. We'll be back with the Hamilton kickoff after this.
Major League Baseball returns to CBC this Wednesday as the Dodgers take on the Expos from Montreal's Olympic Stadium.
What does the PR director do during the course of the game? Well, if you're John Akins of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, you wear the uniform of the Hamilton mascot and perform on the sidelines.
Jackson's kickoff into touch at the 42.
Hucklack hasn't done a bad job on the conversion attempts. He missed his only field goal try, and I think Al Bruno would like to see him get a little more yardage, a little more depth on those kickoffs.
that almost looked like an onside kick.
Illegal kickoff called against the Tiger Cats. It'll be kicked over.
Of course, Al's concern is with the health of Bernie Ruoff. He certainly doesn't want to be without Bernie for that game against the Toronto Argonauts on Sunday at CNE Stadium. Well, it's going to be Steve Jackson kicking off this time. Hucklack didn't get a great deal of depth. Jackson will try it again. He doesn't get a great deal of depth either, but there's some confusion on the part of the Montreal Alouettes. The ball is finally handed off to Jeff Treplin, and he was hit and had it bounce away. It was fielded by Brett Williams. He gave it back to Jeff Treplin, and he was stripped of the ball at the 47-yard line.
I'm surprised to see Brett Williams not take off with that. He usually likes to run with the ball any opportunity he gets.
Walter Lewis back in at quarterback. He started the game for Montreal. Kevin Molly continuing at center in place of the injured Glenn Keeble. The screen to Harry Sidney, and Sidney is stopped at the 48-yard line.
Pass is complete to Harry Sidney.
Unless the Hamilton Tiger Cats get in a lot of trouble, they're going to try to stay back and play a zone defense a great deal and force them to do something up the field. If you play man a great deal in this situation, you can have a bomb thrown on you and an easy touchdown scored. So they're going to make sure that the Montreal Alouette offense earns their way up the field, but they will blitz.
I think right about now, as you suggested late in that second quarter, that Hamilton defense is thinking shutout. Lewis throwing deep, and the catch is made by James Hood down at the 17-yard line.
Well, we know James Hood can go deep, and this is exactly what he did. He went deep, and it looked as though the defensive back fell down, and he was able to catch the ball while he was falling down as well. But you see, Walter Lewis is now rolling out to buy himself a little more time, and as he throws deep, Les Brown falls, and James Hood is able to come up with the reception.
45 yards the gain on the pass to James Hood. That's his fourth reception of the ball game for 73 yards. Lewis throwing into the end zone. Touchdown! Wide open is Scott Fitzke. Paul Bennett, the safety, was blitzing, and Walter Lewis got away from that pressure. And with Bennett out of position, Scott Fitzke was wide open in the end zone.
Well, the blitz can be great for you. As you see, Paul Bennett is coming from his safety spot, and he's not back in that area to stop the middle pass. Now, when he did that, he made the contact with Walter Lewis and missed him. Lewis was free to get to the outside and was able to hit a man wide open in the end zone in the area where Bennett usually would roam if he wasn't blitzing.
Scott Fitzke, another USFL graduate, played with the Philadelphia Eagles, San Diego, and then was with the Philadelphia Stars. And he will hold the ball for this convert attempt by Roy Kurtz, but there's some problem with the number of players that the Montreal Alouettes have in the field.
Time count violation, Montreal number 5.
And they are going to be assessed a time count violation while Roy Kurtz checks things out and makes sure that the right people are out there. Injuries do have a way of, at times, creating some confusion. Fitzke holds for Kurtz. He puts it through, and the Montreal Alouettes are on the board with 2 throws by Walter Lewis to James Hood, and then into the end zone to Scott Fitzke.
Walter Lewis is just rolling back and trying to find what he can see, and all of a sudden there's Paul Bennett in his face, and he breaks outside, which they know that he has the ability to do, to get away from the onrushing people, and he finds Scott Fitzke alone in the end zone.
As a friend of mine would say, nobody within a bull's roar of Scott Fitzke, as he was all by himself hauling in that toss from quarterback Walter Lewis.
When you have that type of defense, when you blitz somebody like Paul Bennett, all the receivers are covered by one defensive back, and there's no guy free back there to roam and help out. And so in that case, somebody got beat, and you don't know who exactly it was until you study the film more. But Scott Fitzke should not have been that wide open by himself in the end zone.
10:18 remaining in this third quarter as Roy Kurtz kicks off. Tony Champion from the 20-yard line out to the 41. A 56-yard kickoff by Roy Kurtz and a 21-yard return by Tony Champion. Tony Lawson and Jeff Treflin were downfield to make the tackle. Now you hear the discussion at that Montreal bench involving the quarterbacks and Coach Gary Durchik. They had success in their last offensive series. They're hoping to do it again the next time they're on the field, but right now the defense has to figure out some means of stopping Mike Kerrigan and the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They need plays like that from Doug Scott and Brett Williams. The tackle made right at the 40-yard line.
Well, there's a lot of points to be behind 32-7 as far as the Montreal Alouettes are concerned, but they still have to play their kind of game, and they can't try to get too much too soon. I know they've got a long way to go, and that's the only way to do it, but they've got to stay with their offense and the things that they do best.
Brett Williams got up limping after making that tackle. Kerrigan dropping back, throwing over the middle. It's incomplete, intended for Walter Bender. And now the Montreal Alouettes should get the ball back in pretty good field position because Bernie Ruoff is not out there punting the ball. And I would think that the Montreal Alouettes should be going after Steve Stapler, trying to pressure him because of his unfamiliarity with that punting position.
I would think that they will try to go after him and at least force a short kick by putting the pressure on him.
Here they come. But he gets away the kick, and Jeff Treflin watches it bounce over to the sidelines and out of bounds at the Montreal bench at the 30-yard line. So with 9 minutes remaining in the third quarter, that's where the Montreal Alouettes will scrimmage, 1st and 10, trailing 32-7.
And the CFL returns live to CBC television this Thursday night. The Ottawa Rough Riders, with their new quarterbacks, will travel west under the dome in Vancouver as they take on Keevan Jenkins and the BC Lions, British Columbia, the best team in the CFL.
Lucky number 19.
Ken Hobart, runner-up last year to Merv Fernandez of the British Columbia Lions as the outstanding player in the Canadian Football League.
Anytime from tomorrow until
The Lions have suffered a double blow this year, losing Fernandez and then their outstanding punt returner, Darnell Clash.
You take a look at the crowd, Don. This is good to see that the Hamilton stands are beginning to fill up once again. As long as they become productive and play good football, the Hamilton fans are great fans, and they're right behind you, like you said, win or tie. But in most cases, they know their players and they identify with them quite well.
Well, a sold-out McMahon Stadium this afternoon in Calgary, 25,000 plus at Taylor Field yesterday, and a good crowd, the biggest of the season at Iverwin Stadium in Hamilton tonight. Harry Sidney on the carry, stopped by Grover Covington at the line of scrimmage. He may have picked up 1 yard. That's only the second time that Sidney has carried the ball in tonight's game. I thought he might see a little more action tonight, as he carried the ball 8 times in his debut the last time these two teams met at Olympic Stadium, and looked pretty good. Walter Lewis runs into one of his own men, fumbles the football. Montreal, fortunately, was able to recover. I think that was James Hood who came back to pounce on the ball. It appeared as though the quarterback, Lewis, lost possession of the ball when he ran into Scott Robson.
Okay, you're going to see a stunt game between Mike Walker inside here and putting the pressure on him.
Recovers the fumble for the Alouettes. Shields made the tackle.
As he makes a stunt, he comes around and he's looking for the quarterback, and he forces him back up into the pocket where the hit is made on him, on Lewis, and he fumbles the ball.
So on third down, Roy Kurtz kicks it away with Paul Bennett fielding on the reverse, giving to Les Brown. They've got the wall set up. He was tripped up by Steve Rocky at the 30-yard line. A 40-yard punt by Roy Kurtz. Les Brown took the ball from Paul Bennett, and they set up that wall down the right side, and he returned it 43 yards.
I tell you, Don, when things are working well for you, it works in all dimensions. Their defense is playing well, their offense is playing well, and they're getting good action from their specialty teams. Even now that Bernie Rule's out, they can't get the kicking, but yet the coverage and the play of their specialty teams has been very good. As you take a look at it, as Les Brown has already got the ball in the reception, there's a picket of defenders or offensive blockers setting up to run down the field with him. As you see, number 61, Mike Walker, is beginning to lead the block, looking for somebody to hit, but Les cuts it back inside and is tackled there.
As he took that hit from Steve Rocky, Les Brown went down, and they're looking at his right knee. Of course, in the last meeting between these two teams, Les Brown equaled the CFL record with 4 interceptions. Chris Sigler of the Ottawa Rough Riders earlier this season also had 4 interceptions in one game. But despite those 4 thefts a week ago, Les Brown does not lead the team in interceptions. That distinction belongs to Mark Streeter. 23,185 taking in the action on this Labor Day at Ivor Wynne Stadium. Quickly inside to Rocky DiPietro. DiPietro tonight, with his 8 catches, has moved into 13th place on the all-time career list. He now has 445 career receptions, and that yardage total moves him into 17th place on the all-time career list.
Well, he's a good, steady receiver.
6:58 remaining in this third quarter. On second down, Walter Bender fights his way to the 10 for a first down, wrapped up there by Doug Scott. 32-7 the score, and the Ticats threatening to add to their big advantage. At the Hamilton bench, they're still concerned about the right knee of Lester Brown, although an encouraging sign, the fact that he was able to run off to that Hamilton bench.
Not by much. The white line, isn't it?
First down play from the 10, swinging it out to Hucklock, touchdown.
It's a good play by Kerrigan, because when he drops out, when you're rolling out of there and you decide that you're going to be looking upfield and trying to find your receivers before you cross that line of scrimmage, and that's what he was doing. As he dropped back, he's looking for his receivers upfield. He can't find anything, so he starts sliding to his left, and as he's rolling out, he's looking for a receiver, and he finds Huckleluck in the left flat, and he's all by himself and is able to beat Benjamin into the end zone for the touchdown.
Well, there were many who thought that Dan Hucklock's career was terminated 2 years ago in a Labor Day game in Regina when he was playing with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Suffered that very serious fracture. He wound up going from Winnipeg to the Edmonton Eskimos, then to the Montreal Alouettes. He joined the Hamilton Tiger Cats partway into this season. He had the opportunity to convert his own major, but he is unsuccessful. He was good on 2 previous conversion attempts. He misses that one, so the score holds at 38-7. And we'll be back with the Hamilton kickoff after this. Well, we understand that we have been having some video problems tonight on our telecast, originating here at Ivor Wynne Stadium. We apologize for the difficulties that we are experiencing and hope that they can be rectified just as soon as possible. Our problems, I suppose, minor to those being experienced by the Montreal Alouettes tonight. They just have not been able to stop the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who have romped into a 38-7 lead with 6:15 still to play in this third quarter. Ken Hobart this time will try to kick off. He hasn't had much more success than either Dan Hucklock or Steve Jackson, but it was knocked out of bounds by Wes Cooper at the 40-yard line. That brings a smile to the face of Al Bruno.
He's wondering, what can I do? Who can I try next?
However, he wouldn't be smiling if the scoreboard didn't read 38-7 in his favor.
I guarantee you, Ken Hobart went to the bench and said, "Hey, Coach, I can kick it."
He'll be running a lottery over at that Hamilton bench to see who gets the job the next time. Lewis looking downfield for James Hood. Things have not been nearly as amusing over on the Hamilton or the Montreal side of the field.
Well, that time Walter Lewis came back with a pass pattern to James Hood on Les Brown. When you get a defender that goes out with an injury, you want to come back and just test him and see if he's working all right and is doing the job out there physically okay. unless Brown showed that he's physically okay.
Second and 10 from the 40. Penalty flag goes down, throwing deep for Fitzke. He's got it. He'll score easily. But there's a penalty flag. It might be brought back by a
Holding
call.
Montreal number 21.
Fields was blitzing, and it may have been Fields who was held up on the holding call, resulting in the flag and wiping out that penalty.
Okay, you're going to see Howard Fields right down here to below your screen, and he's going to come with a blitz, and Johns is going to hold him right here. As Lewis gets out to the outside, is brought back as he throws a touchdown pass because of the holding of Johns.
And this time, with the Ticats going after him, Skillman and Price bring down Walter Lewis back at the 24-yard line.
When you get to this part of the game where you know that the other team has to pass to get back into the game, then you just pin your ears back as defensive linemen and go after that quarterback. And that's what the Hamilton Tiger Cats defensive line will be doing for the rest of the game.
4:55 remains in the third quarter. 38-7 is the score.
374 Kingies for your autographed football.
The kick by Kurtz takes a bounce back towards the line of scrimmage, picked up there by Paul Bennett, and he's wrapped up almost immediately at the 52-yard line.
In that case, it was one of those situations where the referee takes a look at the ball bouncing back towards the other team and not throw the no yards penalty flag down, the new rule that they implemented this year.
No flag if the people inside the 5-yard area are attempting to get out and not make a play.
Right.
A 32-yard kick by Roy Kurtz. Kerrigan, 16 of 28 tonight. His favorite target has been Rocky DiPietro. This time he goes to Stapler for a first down at the 40. Terry Irvin came across to bring down the Hamilton wide receiver.
Well, Kerrigan just drops back in his drop back position, looks to his left, and comes back off the pattern after he looks off the linebacker and hit Stapler right over the middle.
It's only the second time they've gone to Steve Stapler tonight. Actually, the third. He dropped one earlier. Penalty flag in the play. This will be a holding call against Hamilton. Jason Riley, I think, is going to be the guilty party.
Holding Hamilton number 66.
They'll make it Miles Gurrell.
The impressive point about Mike Kerrigan that he does a lot of is that he's had a veteran experience that he drops back and he looks one way, looking the defensive linebackers off, and comes back to the opposite side. And what that gives you is the fact that the middle linebacker is your key. You send him to one side and opening up the other side a little wider for the pass completion.
Got a good look at Miles Gurrell hooking Steve Rocky, resulting in the penalty flag as referee Ross Perrier had a good view of the infraction. Second and 14 now for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Tony Lawson moves in to replace Doug Scott. Kerrigan fakes, now throws deep. Wayne Lee makes the catch down at the 10-yard line. Well, that's how you get it all back in a hurry. Facing second and 14, he goes to Wayne Lee for 33.
Well, he looks left, he looks right, and he comes back and pumps, and then finds Wayne Lee over the middle, wide open. And when you throw that pump fake, sometimes it has a tendency to bring the linebacker up to the person that you're looking at.
First down at the 10. The handoff to Walter Bender. He was tripped up right at the line of scrimmage. The penetration made by Tony Lawson.
Mitchell made the tackle.
Tony Lawson did a good job that time in just collapsing that play to the inside. When you run a trap play and you see that the offensive lineman blocks down from your defensive spot, you're taught to sort of feel and follow that hole because you know there's a block coming from the other side. And that's what he did, and he jammed up the hole and stopped the play from any gain.
Stapler in the end zone, incomplete. He was being covered by Benjamin. Kerrigan attempted to lob that over the defender, a similar play to the first touchdown of the game where he lofted one into the end zone to Tony Champion.
It was a good pass by Kerrigan, a little more difficult angle to hit. As you see, it's coming close, and Benjamin is playing Stapler very close right here, and the angle was a little more sharper and would have been a tough catch, but it was a catchable ball.
A field goal try, the second of the game for Dan Hucklack as he changes footwear. Tom Porras will hold, and this will be a 17-yard field goal attempt by Dan Hucklack. He puts it through. I don't think Bernie Ruoff's job is in any jeopardy in Hamilton, but Al Bruno has to be pleased with the contribution Dan Hucklack has made in taking over from the injured punting and place-kicking star.
Well, if you notice, Dan Hucklack is a straight-on kicker. In other words, he doesn't kick like most of the guys who sideline, like a soccer-style kicker, but he doesn't seem to have on one of those straight-ended shoes that, like the Dave Cutlers of old used to wear in the front. You can see Dan Hucklack makes this field goal. He's quite joyous and happy about the fact that he's got it one through. He's doing an exceptional job for coming in off of the spot with no type of kicking attire.
Well, I don't know whether he did any place kicking in his junior days with the Renfrew Trojans, but perhaps he did. 41-7 with 1:29 remaining in this third quarter. Hamilton leading Montreal. Lewis throwing deep down the sidelines, incomplete. He was looking for Bradley. And Lewis can certainly put something on that ball. He fired that one a good 45 to 50 yards through the air. He's got a strong arm.
Well, last week in Montreal, I was used as a receiver for Walter Lewis for a couple of little plays, and it was working with him. And I'm not a receiver, but I know he throws very hard.
2nd and 10 from the 35. I thought you made a couple of good catches as well, Chuck.
Missed a few, too.
James Hood is open. First down at the 51-yard line. A 16-yard gain for James Hood, his 5th catch of the night. He came into this game as the number 3 receiver. The Montreal quarterbacks have passed for 106 yards so far in the ball game. Incomplete over on the sidelines. It was intended for Scott Fitzke. There's also a penalty flag, holding against Montreal.
Gilman, the injured Tiger Cat ball player.
32 seconds remaining in this third quarter. Penalty declined by the Hamilton Tiger Cats. The pass was incomplete. It will be 2nd and 10 from the 51. 25 seconds remaining with the clock running. 41-7. Hamilton leading Montreal. Lewis over the middle again, looking for Fitzke, incomplete. And with just 11 seconds remaining, Gary Durchik sends out the punting unit.
Well, that Hamilton defense is quite confident in their secondary people, and now you'll see them playing zones and bending and giving up something on the field, but they also play man, and when they play man defense, they'll have Paul Bennett rolling back there free where he can pick up and help anybody that might break deep as far as receiver if they beat any of the other defensive backs.
Paul Bennett takes the third down punt at the 10-yard line. And he returns it to the 22. A run back of 12 after a 49-yard kick by Roy Kurtz. That's the final play of the third quarter with the Ticats leading Montreal 41-7.
Has an ERA of 3.4 with a 1-0 mark.
Baseball's got stats for everything, Gene.
Yeah, and those guys talk funny with their RBIs, ERAs. Don't forget about them DHs. Yeah. You know, they probably ought to mill a light like this. Hey, JR, give me 2 MLs ASAP. At least they like Miller Lite.
Sure, light tastes great.
And it tastes less filling than regular beer.
Now, those stats I can appreciate.
Hey, okay.
LBFM, now available with a convenient twist cap.
Well, the Montreal Alouettes have been able to move the ball in the third quarter, but they were facing too big a deficit to overcome, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats have pretty much wrapped this one up. They had it wrapped up at halftime, leading 25-0, 331 yards. Turnovers hurt the Montreal Alouettes early in the ball game. They have been intercepted on 2 occasions. That totaled down from the 6 interceptions they gave up at Olympic Stadium in Montreal, but that early interception got the Hamilton offense in gear. After the theft by Lance Shields, they were able to put together a drive, culminating in a touchdown by Walter Bender. And it's 41-7, Hamilton in front of Montreal. In case you're wondering, the most points the Ticats have ever scored in a game, 67 against the Saskatchewan Roughriders on October 15th, 1962. I think that was the game in which Joe Zuger went wild here at Ivor Wynne Stadium and fired something like 7 touchdown passes. Ken Hobart now in at quarterback over the middle for Wayne Lee. Wayne Lee is stopped by William Mitchell after a gain of 7.
Well, I think this is good for Ken Hobart to get some playing time, especially to try to work on his passing game. Everybody in the league knows that he has the capabilities to run with the ball. But what he has to prove to himself and to other people in the league and other defenses that he can stand back there and throw the ball.
Second down play, and Walter Bender fights his way out to the 34. That will be very close to a first down. Earlier, I referred to the fact that Dan Hucklack played some junior football with the Renfrew Trojans. Speaking of the Canadian Junior Football League, the offensive and defensive stars of the past week. Defensively, linebacker Trevor Chandler of the Saskatoon Hilltops. Offensively, Tony Farrelly of the Hamilton Hurricanes, who ran for 182 yards and scored 4 touchdowns in their victory this past week. The number 1 ranked junior team in the country, the Richmond Raiders, Regina Rams number 2, and the St. Vital Mustangs number 3.
That time they were trying to put a little pressure on. We got a little course on the sideline there. But that time they were trying to put some pressure on Ken Hobart, and William Mitchell came up the middle with the blitz, and Ken had to release the ball a lot sooner than he was ready to throw the ball.
13:25 left to play, 2nd and 10. Pressure again. Hobart gets away. He'll run for the first down and more. He decides to step out of bounds after being spun around by Will Lewis, but that's what Ken Hobart does so well.
Well, you remember last week we were talking to Wally Bono about the blitzing of linebackers and how they can hurt them. And this time all the linebackers are blitzing, and what that does is when they come in there, they run past the quarterback, and there's nobody to pick him up in the intermediate area. And Ken Hobart can beat defensive backs or linebackers in a one-on-one situation and pick up a lot of yards, as he does here, and he's getting smarter by going out of bounds.
He rambled for 35 yards after ducking under the charge of Tony Lawson. This time he's is unsuccessful in getting away from Sandy Armstrong and is dropped back at the 50 for a loss of 8 yards.
Well, the difference when you see the style in the rushing is that Kerrigan, being a drop-back passer, naturally will get rid of that ball and release it a lot quicker than Ken Hobart. He will look a little longer and think that he has the opportunity of always running out of there, and sometimes he can get away, and a lot of times he doesn't in this situation.
Hobart ranks 4th among CFL rushers, despite the fact that he has not played all that much this season. Walter Bender takes the throw and is bounced out of bounds well short of the first down. There's also a penalty flag on the play.
Illegal procedure, Hamilton, number 23.
Procedure call against Rocky DiPietro. The Montreal Alouettes are going to decline the penalty as Hamilton is well short of the first down. .12:06 left to play in the football game. 41-7. The Ticats leading the Alouettes. Steve Stapler punting from his 47-yard line. Low snap, and he gets away a pretty good kick. Fielded by Treflin, nowhere to go. He is thrown out of bounds. That draws a penalty flag. A loss on the attempted return, but the penalty flag, the rough play call against Hamilton, will improve Montreal's position. The rough play call on that punt return by Jeff Treflin gives Montreal a first down out at the 30-yard line.
Well, the rough plays on Frank Robinson, that those linebackers are just, some of them are just nasty. And Frank Robinson just slings him out a little bit too far and gets called for the penalty.
Frank Robinson still makes his off-season home in Winnipeg, where he operates a business. He, of course, played for the Blue Bombers a year ago. Is complete to James Hood. No, they're ruling no catch. And Hood is not happy with that call. The throw from quarterback Walter Lewis apparently was low. Let's take another look at it.
He didn't catch the ball, as we're going to see here on the replay, as it's going out a quick out to James Hood, and he has to lean back for it. And it did come out of his hands and hit the ground. A good call by the officials.
2nd and 10 from the 30. Gadevekis in there in place of Ben Zambiazzi at that middle linebacker position. The ball is fumbled. It's still loose. Who's got it? There's also another penalty flag as the result of a skirmish further upfield. I believe it was Blake Nill who may have come up with that football. It's about the 3rd time tonight that Walter Lewis has lost possession of that football.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness, 65 Hamilton. Major foul, unnecessary roughness, Montreal. 3rd down.
Well, what happens if you're a quarterback that runs around a lot, sometimes when you decide to look upfield and you decide to take off, your natural instinct is bring it down from a high position where you have it to a running position, and you're holding it loose rather than holding it tight, and you get your arm slapped and the ball just comes out.
Troy Kurtz had to haul down that high snap from center and get that kick away quickly. Paul Bennett takes it, and he is stopped almost immediately at the 50-yard line. 10:54 is the time remaining. The Hamilton Tiger Cats enjoying good field position again for this offensive series.
Time now for our final lucky number of the evening. 19,261. Time now for our major prize of the evening.
Two games on CBC television as we move into week 10 of the CFL schedule. Ottawa at the BC Lions on Thursday night. On Sunday, we'll have the game between Hamilton and Toronto, the top two teams in the Eastern Conference. Two other games. Friday, Winnipeg entertaining Saskatchewan. And on Sunday, Montreal visits Edmonton. While we have a chance, a reminder this program is copyrighted and is strictly for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, retransmission, or exhibition in whole or in part without the express written consent of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation is strictly prohibited. Well, things certainly won't get any easier for Gary Durchuk and the Montreal Alouettes as they go west next week to take on the Edmonton Eskimos. Victors today, 42-19 over the Calgary Stampeders. Hobart is brought down by Steve Rocky at the midfield stripe.
Well, that was a good job by the defensive secondary because Ken Hobart had three receivers out there to his left and couldn't get the ball to either one of them. So the offensive line did their job and gave him enough time, but the defensive secondary of Montreal covered the receivers well enough that he couldn't get the ball downfield.
Second and 15 for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Ken Hobart has replaced starting quarterback Mike Kerrigan. His pass over the middle intended for Stapler is incomplete. It will be 3rd and 15. Is that James Hood having a few problems putting on his helmet? Yes, it is. A tight fit. Well, Stapler hasn't been doing a bad job with those left-footed kicks. Good coverage by the Ticats as Jeff Treflin had nowhere to go after that 39-yard boot. Mark Napierkowski, the first downfield, restricting his return to just 3 yards. Walter Lewis started the game at quarterback for Montreal. He was replaced in the second quarter by Brian Ransom. Lewis came back in the second half, and he will continue as the quarterback with 9:48 still to play in this fourth quarter.
Well, it's a situation where Walter Lewis should get some work now to learn this game, to see what's happening out there. The game's in a position where they probably will not win this game, so he needs to work.
Get some experience for the next test against the Edmonton Eskimos. Covington and Walker as this front four of Hamilton's is awesome tonight. And, of course, they're taking advantage of the inactivity and CFL inexperience of Walter Lewis.
Yeah, they said before the game in talking to some of the defensive linemen, they wanted to make sure that they could get up in his face and create a problem for him to see. They know that the one extra man in a larger field could create a problem with their secondary people, so they wanted to do their job as defensive linemen to put pressure on him.
Penalty flag as Lewis was looking for Jacques Chapdelaine.
Holding, Montreal number 66.
The holding call against Lloyd Fairbanks will be declined with the incomplete pass. Well, Coach Gary Durchuk was concerned prior to tonight's ball game about how his offensive line would handle those front four of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. It's been pretty much no contest.
Well, I tell you what, Terry Irvin was even concerned because he said, I wish it was playing during a day where it was hot so those big, tough defensive linemen of Hamilton could be slowed down.
Good kick by Roy Kurtz. Taken by Wayne Lee. He's trying to get outside. He won't as he is upset by Brian Dudley. A 42-yard kick that time by Roy Kurtz, and despite all the running by Wayne Lee, a return of just 2 yards. 8:34 left in the ball game. 41-7. The Ticats lead the Alouettes.
I know this game is a situation where Ken Hobart next to should get a lot of work, but at the same time, I'd like to see them make a move with Tom Porras, who they've had for a couple of years sitting around, to give him an opportunity to get some playing time in case one of these guys would go down and he would be the second quarterback.
Hobart is going to throw deep for Stapler. He overshoots him. It will be 2nd and 10 from the midfield stripe. The Ticats lost Ron Ingram, who would normally line up at the other wide receiver position in the last game these two teams played at Olympic Stadium. He suffered a broken finger in the 4th quarter. So Stapler and Tony Champion are the wideouts in tonight's game, with Wayne Lee moving into the slot back position in place of Tony Champion. Second and 10, the draw play with Walter Bender, big hole. Bender cut back behind the block of Tony Champion to pick up a few additional yards. And that's a 32-yard gallop for Walter Bender.
Well, the Montreal Alouette defense has been coming with a lot of blitzes, trying to get to that quarterback and do anything to create a turnover. And when they came back to Walter Bender on a draw play, they did the same thing they did when they rushed Ken Hobart. They overran the play, and he broke through the hole, and he was in the open field.
1st and 10. The ball is at the 23 of Montreal. Penalty flag goes down as Hobart rolls to his right. He's going to run the football. He'll get to the end zone. But there was a penalty flag back at the line of scrimmage.
Procedure, Hamilton, number 30.
A procedure call against the Hamilton Tiger Cats wipes out the 23-yard touchdown run by Ken Hobart.
Well, that's what Kenny does best, is roll out of there and run with the ball. And he has great abilities in the open field as well as strength as a quarterback running. So once one man pulls him from the top and tries to pull him down, he has the strength to break tackle. In this case, he was in the open field and was able to get in the end zone, but unfortunately a penalty brings it back.
So it'll be 1st and 15 from the 28-yard line. 7:16 is the time left to play. This victory will move the Ticats within 4 points of the Toronto Argonauts in the Eastern Division standings. And, of course, the two teams meet on Sunday at CNE Stadium in Toronto. Over the middle, incomplete, in and out of the hands of Tony Champion. Actually, I think that Hobart mishandled that snap from center as he tried to drop back to set up.
It almost looked like they were having another procedure call because either the cadence or the snap ball coming up from the center was going to be late. And a couple people start moving earlier, and he started backing out, and that's where he almost had the problem.
Well, it may be the lack of familiarity with his center. Dale Sanderson is in there replacing Marv Alamang, who went out earlier. No problems this time as he completes the pass to Wayne Lee, but he is about 8 yards short of a first down. And with 6:29 left in the ball game, out comes the Hamilton field goal unit. And Dan Hucklack will attempt his 3rd field goal of the night. He's 1 for 2 so far. Hucklack putting on that kicking shoe and trying this one from 28 yards out. A straight-on kicker. It is blocked at the line of scrimmage. And it will bounce into the end zone where Ryan will concede a single point. So with 6:03 left to play, it's now 42-7. Hamilton leading Montreal. Today's Carling O'Keefe Game Stars will receive a Royal Canadian Mint 1-ounce gold coin presented by Tilly, Canadian manufacturers of fine leather goods, bringing together quality and creativity in all their products. Tilly for personal leather goods and travel wear. Well, Gary Durchik has not had much success as the coach of the Montreal Alouettes in this 1986 season. And as we mentioned earlier, I'm sure there are many across the Canadian Football League who are wondering what the presence of Marv Levy, one of the most successful coaches in the history of this franchise, will mean, as Levy is back as the director of football operations. Walter Lewis got away initially, throws complete. Fitzke takes it out to the 50 of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, taken out of bounds there by Howard Fields. Walter Lewis certainly does have good scrambling ability, and for much of the night he has been forced to run for his life.
Well, Walter Lewis has been getting pressure from the defensive line of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. In this case, he was throwing a screen, but the screen was well covered in the flat, and he just pulls it down and looks for a secondary receiver upfield. And Scott Fitzke has been getting open just by reading what he can find down there and coming up with the ball.
First down from the 50-yard line. Incomplete, intended for Scott Fitzke again. That time, Lewis threw it behind him. Fitzke had some impressive receiving statistics in the United States Football League. Ticats lead the CFL in interceptions, 2 of them tonight, increasing their league leading total to 25. Deep, intended for James Hood. He makes the catch. He got away from Les Brown. He fought his way to the 2-yard line where he was decked by Terry Lenny, but they rule that he is down back at the 7-yard line. James Hood, with that ball in the air, fought his way back to maneuver in front of Les Brown, who was defending.
Well, they've been trying to run some out patterns on Les Brown all night. That time they sort of what we run out and up, where he breaks to the outside and slides up. The ball was underthrown to him, and he comes back in front of Les Brown, and he has good strength and ability as he's pulling Les Brown down, and he gets down to the 2-yard line. He's a good receiver and has the ability to catch the ball short as well and take it all the way.
First and goal, Montreal from the 7 of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Lewis is being chased by Streeter. Throws the ball to James Hood, who was caught immediately at the 5-yard line. Hood's been getting a bit of a rough ride from those Hamilton defensive backs.
Well, those defensive backs know that Hood is their key receiver, and they've been on him and hitting him and holding him tight, and he's just getting a little frustrated with the whole evening of what's happened, and he's getting his temper up.
He actually managed to fight his way to the 4-yard line, so it will be second and goal from that point. Lewis is in trouble, gets the pass away. Tony Johns is stopped at the 2-yard line.
When you get down here and close to the end zone, the Hamilton Tiger Cats like to send their defensive backs, and they'll send Streeter, or they'll send Fields, or they'll send Bennett. So you don't really know which one's coming, but any of them may come at any particular time, and that's what they did. Is Fields come from his left side in there charging Walter Lewis, but he got away with the ball and threw it to Johns and was able to pick up some yardage, but not enough for the touchdown.
So it will be third and goal for the Montreal Alouettes when we return to Ivor Wynne Stadium with 3:09 left in the ball game. Well, the Montreal Alouettes will be gambling on third down, the ball between the 2 and the 3-yard lines. Hamilton with 400 yards net offense. Montreal 179 net yards, and most of that yardage accrued after the outcome of this game had long ago been decided. The Owls trying to get their second touchdown of the night. I referred earlier to the impressive pass reception statistics of Scott Fitzke. He had back-to-back seasons of 55 receptions for the Philadelphia Stars, and then last year he caught 73 passes. He has scored their lone touchdown tonight. In the end zone, it's incomplete. Did he make the interception? Lance Shields apparently did. It was intended for Bradley. So the Alouettes fail in their attempt to score a second touchdown, and that's the third interception of the ball game, the second for Lance Shields.
Again, the Tiger Cats come with a safety blitz, and here's Fields charging, and they put the pressure on him, and Walter Lewis just throws it down there hoping to get a touchdown, and it's picked off by Shields.
Tom Paris at quarterback for the Tiger Cats.
So his second interception, the third of the game, and Tom Porras has moved in at quarterback for Hamilton. The ball at the 25-yard line. He gives to Walter Bender, and Bender is stopped as he got to the line of scrimmage.
Well, Tom Porras is going to come into the game and just try to establish some offensive control, maybe run on first down and throw on second down if he has to, or maybe even run on second down to use up some of that clock. But he would like to get some playing time as far as throwing the ball in game situations rather than just practice.
2:33, the time left to play. Ooh, he was hit by Sandy Armstrong.
Welcome to the game,
by Sandy Armstrong.
Well, that has a way of waking you up and making you ready to play the next series.
After that hit by Armstrong, Porras may wish he was back in a nightclub circuit playing the guitar and doing some singing. Stapler stands at his own 3-yard line for this third down kick. The ball bounces away from Treflin. He goes back to get it. He's going to lose yards. It wasn't that good a kick by Steve Stapler, but in trying to field it, Treflin actually lost yardage. 1:56 is the time left to play. There was a penalty marker on the play. A holding call against Montreal. That takes the ball back to the 44.
This is a very difficult part of the game for the players on the field at this time, because you know that you're in a situation where you can't win the game, and you just basically want to get out of here and regroup. It's very tough.
A very enjoyable night for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, as they have moved within 4 points of the Toronto Argonauts in the Eastern Division standings. Grover Covington tracks down Walter Lewis once again. He catches him right at the line of scrimmage. Covington and Mitchell Price did not play last week in the victory by the Ticats 28-23 at Olympic Stadium, but they have certainly made their presence felt in this game at Ivor Wynne.
Well, Grover, anytime he's in a game, he's going to make his presence felt. He's such a good, outstanding contained man as far as the defensive end position that he puts a lot of pressure on you.
Penalty flag. There appeared to be some movement along that offensive line.
Illegal procedure. Number 60, Montreal.
Blake Nill is the man who jumped in advance of the ball being snapped. He was out of his three-point stance almost a full count before the ball was centered. That takes the ball back to the 38-yard line with 1:37 left to play. You'll see him on the right side of that offensive line pull up.
Well, this part of the game, as I said, it gets kind of slow and difficult, and you lose your concentration, and you've got to hang in there right till the end.
Oh, Walter Lewis is certainly not going to have pleasant thoughts about his initial start in the CFL. That time it was Ed Gadavekis who got through to drop him for a loss. Gadavekis taking over in this fourth quarter from middle linebacker Ben Zambiazzi, as Coach Al Bruno has substituted quite freely.
Well, as he drops back here, he's getting a lot of pressure from that defensive line, and that time they sent a linebacker in Gadavekis to make the sack on him in the backfield. He's learning a lot tonight in regards to what this Canadian Football League is all about, and they put a lot of pressure on him.
Third down kick by Roy Kurtz, taken by Paul Bennett. Bennett gets loose, gets to the outside, and then is forced out of bounds at the 54-yard line. 1:17 the time left to play. A 34-yard kick by Roy Kurtz. And Al Bruno, I'm sure, is already thinking ahead to the Sunday game against the Toronto Argonauts at CNE Stadium, but concerned about his kicking game in the event that Bernie Ruoff should not be able to answer the call. Ruoff going out in the second quarter with that knee injury. Facing Lance Chomick and Hank Olisic, the Ticats would certainly be giving away a lot in that kicking game. Forrest passes complete to Tony Champion at the 40-yard line. Penalty flag as well. I think that Terry Irvin is going to be called for a face mask violation.
Major foul, Montreal number 32. First down.
The good thing that happened there, when Tony Champion caught the ball down here in the outside, he didn't try to hustle to the outside for to get out of bounds. It looked as though he was trying to catch the ball and make sure he stayed in bounds by just getting down on the ground. And then Terry Irvin comes over the top and makes a face mask grab. As you can take a look at the close-up position, he grabbed him by the head, and that's what was the calls for.
That takes the ball to the 25-yard line with 1:10 remaining. 42-7 is the score. Dan Hucklack takes the inside handoff and struggles for about 3 yards. Been an interesting night for Dan Hucklack. He has scored a touchdown, and he has handled the placement chores following the injury to Bernie Ruoff. He'll see his name in the statistical sheets in an unexpected manner, adding converts and kicking 1 field goal. Also having 2 missed field goal attempts result in single points. 47 seconds remaining as the Ticats work their way to the 20-yard line. There's another injured Montreal player. The executive producer of CFL football on CBC television is John Spaulding. Tonight's game produced by Lawrence Kimber, directed by Rick Brace. Our isolation director, Mo Waters. And our thanks to the other people who have helped in our production of tonight's telecast from Ivor Wynne Stadium in Hamilton. Matt Finley is the injured Montreal player. (42-7) the score with just 47 seconds remaining to be played.
Well, this has been a good game from a Hamilton perspective, because all season long they've been having problems generally with their offense, except last week they started to produce a little more, and they had a couple games where they scored a few points when they lost. But now they seem to be establishing themselves not only as a good defensive team, but a good offensive team. And if they can do that with the type of defense they play, they can create some turnovers for their offense to carry them through and score some points easily, and it'll make them a much better team in the weeks to come. You've got a few more games before the season's over with, and they're going to be battling with the Toronto Argonauts for first place, and that could be a big factor.
And Gary Durchik doesn't have much time to get his Montreal Alouettes ready for their next outing on Sunday at Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton against the Eskimos. It'll be a short week of preparation when you take into account the traveling time west. Not quite so difficult for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who just have to drive down to QEW for their game in Toronto against the Argos. Penalty flag as Tom Forrest rolls out to his left. He dives looking for the
Holding,
first down.
Hamilton number 30.
Play, but there'll be a holding call against Dan Hucklack. I think Hucklack may have been having some problems there with Steve Rocky and trying to keep him away from his quarterback.
Well, he was trying to hook Steve Rocky so Porras could get to the outside. And when he did that, you could see on the screen here that he makes the grab on Steve Rocky and he allows Porras to get to the outside.
26 seconds left to play. It will be 3rd and 15. And Forrest simply dives ahead, turning the ball over to the Montreal Alouettes. Well, the Alouettes try and go for broke here with 23 seconds remaining and try and come up with something else, or will they simply lick their wounds and head home to regroup for their next outing?
Well, you're in a situation I think you better just run a couple plays and call it a night before you take any chance of getting anybody else injured by doing something long up the field or being back in the pocket and calls for yourself to get sacked as a quarterback. So I think they don't want to waste Walter Lewis in this situation and cause for any situation to get hurt. So I would say take the safe one and just call this a night and hand off a couple of times and go home.
Well, the Montreal Alouettes have called a timeout. Tony Champion was the man who got things started tonight for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He scored the game's first touchdown following the interception by Lance Shields. Montreal with a game on Sunday at Commonwealth Stadium against the Edmonton Eskimos. And then they return home for a game on the 12th of this month against the Ottawa Rough Riders. Statistically, a big advantage for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, as the scoreboard would suggest, reading 42-7 in their favor. 418 yards, 171 total yards for Montreal. Those 4 turnovers certainly hurt the Montreal Alouettes again tonight, as did the 6 interceptions the last time they met at Olympic Stadium. Lewis is airing it out for James Hood. It's incomplete. Lance Shields, who has picked off 2 Montreal throws, was back there covering the Montreal wide receiver. 15 seconds remain to be played. This time there's an injured Montreal player. Mike Walker is the man down. Did I say Montreal player? A Hamilton player. Mike Walker down. He leads the team in sacks.
Yeah, he had that big game last week against Montreal when he came up with several sacks, and he's a good player.
Walker's been around for 7 years and certainly has been a valuable contributor on that Hamilton defensive line. Well, that young man is certainly an avid Hamilton fan, and he's going to hang in tough right to the very end. He says, I paid my money, I'm going to see it all. Well, in a game like this, with the outcome, as I said, decided early, the concern on the part of the Hamilton coaching staff has to be about the health of a number of their injured players, particularly Bernie Ruoff. We talked about the quarterback sacks of Mike Walker in the game last week at Montreal. He dropped the Alouette quarterbacks 4 times. The catch is made on the sidelines by Bradley. That will be a first down with 8 seconds left to play. That takes the ball out to the 53-yard line. Some of the statistics in this game are going to be misleading because much of the yardage has been accrued late in the game. This should be the final play of the ball game, and it's incomplete. It was intended again for Bradley, and that's it. The Hamilton Tiger Cats make it 2 in a row over the Montreal Alouettes, 28-23 a week ago, and at home on this Labor Day weekend, a lopsided 42-7 win. And with the triumph, the Hamilton Tiger Cats move within 4 points of the leading Toronto Argonauts, a team they'll play next Sunday at CNE Stadium, a game you'll see on CBC television. Today's Carling O'Keefe Game Stars will receive a Royal Canadian Mint 1-ounce gold coin, presented by the Nikon One Touch, the simplest 35mm Nikon ever. And by Tilly, bringing together quality leather goods and travel wear. And tonight's Game Stars: offensively, Hamilton quarterback Mike Kerrigan; defensively, defensive end Grover Covington. Kerrigan and Covington certainly enjoying the outcome tonight at Ivor Wynne Stadium. Chuck Ely, the outcome really never in doubt after, say, about the first 10 minutes of the ball game, as Hamilton totally dominated.
Well, Hamilton picked up exactly where they left off last week against Montreal with their offense doing the job, and with the addition of Covington back in there, their defense just completely